Good Tuesday evening, Trinidad and Tobago, to all of the loyal viewers of SynergyTV. Thank you for tuning in to yet another edition of The Real Issues with yours truly, Dominic Romain. Always a pleasure to be with you, and I trust that you would have had an enjoyable weekend and a productive day, as this week also promises to be another interesting week in terms of the discussion with the prevailing issues. As we always tell you, as the name is suggested, the real issues. This program intends to speak about the issues that are topical, trending, the issues that are, occupying the minds and the lips of the citizens throughout the day and throughout the week. And there never seems to be a dull moment in Trinidad and Tobago when it comes to the various issues. And of course, these last few days have not been any different. Unfortunately, we continue to see a spike in the murder toll. And, there are persons who are expressing their views with respect to that. Who really is responsible for the management of the crime situation in Trinidad and Tobago? Is it the government? Is it the police? Are we citizens also responsible in terms of, as the saying goes, charity begins at home, right? And therefore, just remember that all of these criminals start off as young children. So if what is supposed to be done is not being done in the homes, then we and the rest of society cannot be blamed when it is that they go astray. But as you know, Trinidad and Tobago is a very highly political country, and whenever your party is not in power, we're always fixated on placing the blame on the government for a variety of issues. So, as always, we try to have a guest in studio to discuss the issues so that we can discuss it from an empirical standpoint, not propaganda, not hearsay, not bacchanal and couture. And so, as promised, I have my guest back with me, well, let me say my co-host back with me this week, Mr. Wendell Eversley, who would have joined us last week, and we would have started a very interesting conversation. And as we had established, 2 hours certainly is not enough to have a discussion with Wendell. So we continue that discussion that we started last week, but also just touch on some of the other issues that are prevailing at the moment. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening. Welcome back, and good afternoon to all your listeners on The Real Issues.
Yes.
The real issues. The real issue that confronting and facing Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes.
Some people don't like to hear the truth, and some people don't like to hear the facts.
Right.
But when you bring the truth and the facts and the real issues, they attack you for even talking the truth.
That's
and,
right.
And bringing it forward.
Yeah.
So we must have to tell them as it is. And we must let the population of Trinidad and Tobago know what is going on. Because when I watch and you see what's going on outside in the outside world, we have our problems here.
Yeah.
As we talked earlier on about the death toll rising in terms of murder. Right? And it stems from the illegal firearm entering our shores, and you ask who really responsible, right? But it's a tough fight, but we cannot give up, and we have to make sure that if people really care and love Trinidad and Tobago, every hand will come on deck, and make sure, right, that they fight the crime surge that we are seeing today. And when we mean that every hand come on deck, which include the opposition, because the opposition have a major role to play in parliament where crime is concerned. And if they don't support in bringing forth legislation that will protect us as citizens, and them in support, then I will say, this is my personal view, is they part of the crime situation that's taking place in Trinidad and Tobago today. So Dominic, I am glad that you bring me back on this program.
Yes.
Because this is the real issue, and we have to bring it out there for the population.
Correct.
And the population must know. As I also said, some people just tell you their hands are clean and their hearts are pure. But you have to ask yourself if they really mean that their hands are clean and their heart are pure. Say they will put God in front and they will walk behind. I just want to know what front they're walking behind and what behind they're walking and who they're putting in front. Right? Because if they really want to put God in front, they will do what is right for the citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, especially where crime is concerned, especially where we see for the past, this will make it, this year, the ending of this year, will make it 8 years, right, since she became opposition leader from 2010 to now. And you have to ask yourself, what did they do in terms of supporting the country where crime is concerned in legislation that bring comfort in our parliament and bills that comfort in our parliament. Did they really support it? And the people out there had to judge. The people out there had to judge. So I will follow you in your lead.
Well, I know we said we would touch a little bit on the COP and so on. But before we get to that, right? I saw the man I call Gary the Great. Yes, others refer to him as Captain Gary, Gary Griffith, GG. I saw he put out a post yesterday on his Facebook page. And he listed some things, and persons who he thinks are missing and who need to speak on certain issues. But there was one that I noticed was conspicuously missing. So he says, have most of our cabinet ministers left and gone. With 13 murders between last Friday and Sunday, not a word from anyone. The PM, who is the head of the National Security Council, has gone on a golfing holiday. I don't know how it is he knows that. But again, the Prime Minister is living rent-free, it seems, in his head. So he probably had to start charging Dr. Rowley property tax just now. The PM, who is the Minister of National Security, has disappeared into thin air since before the local government election. One of the plants at Point Lisas is threatening to take the government to court for not receiving sufficient natural gas to run its plant. And here again, not a word from the Minister of Energy, but he's admitting he donated a firearm to the TTPS after his actions were exposed. Cal Pilots virtually grounded the airline yesterday without a word from the Minister of Finance, who is the airline's minister and just happens to be the acting Prime Minister. No word also from the Minister of Transport, as he was last seen promising to fix all roads. He too is missing in action, probably in a pothole somewhere. And last but not least, Commissioner Ulla Christopher's silence is also deafening, probably busy leading her 70 assigned officers in the investigations against legal firearms, despite all murders committed with firearms being illegal ones, while citizens are being terrorized daily by all criminals. And her subordinates' best advice to us is fend for yourself, and the NTA eagerly awaits the 2025 general election. He left out one glaring headline that I saw in yesterday's newspaper. UNC councillor under police glare or something like that, in reference to a recently elected or re-elected councillor, UNC councillor in the Monroe Road district.
Monroe Road, Karen Savannah.
Yes, who is accused of using his licensed firearm. And since Mr. Griffith seems to be all obsessed with licensed firearms, and it's a good thing to have, and we know we just came out of a campaign where the topic was, a prevailing issue was light them up, load up the matic, knock it on them, knock it again, and all of that, and stand your ground law, and all of this. And here it is that we have a UNC councillor who, by all accounts, is a law-abiding citizen. And I'm sure that I would love to know when did he get that FUL, if it was issued under Mr. Griffith. But anyway, that is a discussion for another time. And I noticed Mr. Griffith didn't reference that. And here it is that you have a councillor. I think the Sagonas Borough Corporation was sworn in today. So this gentleman would have been sworn in and is now under police probe with respect to an allegation that he would have used his firearm to threaten a young lady at her workplace and others, right? And this to me is a glaring example of why stand your ground and making it easier for law-abiding citizens to get firearms, it making no sense, because there's a law-abiding citizen who allegedly used his licensed firearm for menace and to threaten people. So if somebody like him could do that, well, what you leave for the average Joe, who is not a politician? When?
Well, I'm glad you raised that issue, right? And his name was out there.
Yes.
And I think the public should know, because the police confirmed that they're investigating him.
Yes.
Right? It's Adrian Ali.
Adrian Ali.
Confirmed they're investigating him. And what is for shocking is to know that reports before it even reached to the police, they went to the police and make a report concerning that same sitting councillor, because it was a sitting councillor when his report was made, and they went to the police on 4 occasions, 4 or 5 occasions, and on top of that, they went to the hierarchies of the party.
Yes.
They wrote to the chairman of the party, which is Dave Tanko. They wrote to the general secretary of the party. They wrote to the deputy political leader of the party and the political leader.
Yes.
And they sent emails advising them and telling them what this counselor was doing, threatening a female, pull his licensed firearm, calling her companion also too, threatening him also, and threatening others. And it brings me back to the candidate that had in Olzerville, Tunapuna. People mustn't forget that. Olzerville, Tunapuna.
Yes.
Swift, where he was charged by the TTPS for having an illegal firearm. An illegal firearm. Immediately, the PRO of the UNC came out and gave a press release and they distanced themselves from him because, let's face reality, Swift is an African.
Right.
They distanced themselves from him.
Yeah.
Right? And he given the all clear.
Yes.
You see him in the UNC jersey. You see him in the big banner.
Yes.
You see him with the supporters. You see him, the candidate for Olzerville, Tunapuna. And
he was endorsed by the Tunapuna executive of the UNC.
Yes, and not only that too. He was also a member of the St. Augustine executive. A member of the St. Augustine executive. You see why you see you're bringing the real issues, right? And the facts and the truth. And when you have Kurt Mayo and the MP for St. Augustine constituency and the executive distance themselves from him. And here it is, you're seeing this councillor, where they warn about, right? Prior to even this candidate, before you even get charged or hold with an illegal firearm, that all these information out there about him, and they turn a blind eye on it, a blind eye on it, distance themselves from Swift, throw him under the bus, but embrace this guy who they went and see sworn in today. And I'm sure the leader was there. I'm sure the leader was there because she will be there to see all the councillors and chairman and everybody sworn in from her party. And she will give it a broad smart. So I don't know when she say empty the clip, knock it once, knock it twice, make sure you offload the matic. I don't know if she's embracing these kind of things in her own party, right? And then when it comes to a certain section of people get shot, she pushes them under the bus, just as David Lee. They embracing David Lee. Yes. Minority, not the minority, chief whip for the opposition in the lower house. Member of Parliament for Point-a-Pierre on $1 million bail, charged by the TTPS for what? For fraud. For fraud. So you see what taking place. It brings me back to when Basley Pandey was the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. When Basley Pandey, a mayor, not a mayor, chairman from Rio Claro Regional Corporation, went to him, says life under threat. And by who? Who was threatening him?
Hansraj Sumer Singh.
Yes, Hansraj. Who was threatening him? A former Minister of Local Government who used to sing, remember when Stalin sing the song Dan Raj Dance?
Yes.
And the sheriff in town? Yes. Because he really went as a minister, he went in a corporation and pulled a firearm, a licensed firearm, right? And when Sumer Singh was murdered, who they hold for the murder? They failed to treat with the matter of where this person come and say, because they wanted them to do things as a chairman,
right? And
he said he's not going to do it, right? In terms of corruption, in terms of contracts and all these different things. And he was murdered, right? They say whoever called it, it so happened, Dan Singh was in charge of his murder, right? Some sort of technology get off, but it showed clearly, where we seen a pattern, and like nobody don't seem to care. And when you talk about these things, they're quick to accuse you of all different things. And you bring in the facts there, you bring in the issues there, and you bring in the truth. And all this is there. So when you see what we see today going on in Shogunas, what we see also going on in Sandy Grande, remember people on the investigation, they put them back up again.
Yes.
They put them back again. So what are we seeing? Are we seeing that people want to follow certain countries in the continent of Asia? When you look at the parliament, I ain't calling the country, right? But if you look at the continent of Asia consists of plenty countries.
Correct.
And when you look at the Congress, it have people sitting in the Congress, in the parliament, serious charges. Are they seeing these kind of operation now in our own parliament? And these are things we have to take out, we have to talk out against, because if we want the young people in this country, right, to respect and be law-abiding citizens, and you have people in your very own right, who breaking the law, and you want these same people to come and present these people to us. What do you expect the young people to do? Right? They say, look what you do. You're trying to tell me about breaking the law, but you have people, big question marks. Because when you look at the lower house, how much of them before the court?
But we have two of them that are under investigation. We have Anna Ram,
yes,
who is the member of parliament, I believe, for Carney Central, who would have been fired from two public utilities companies for gross misconduct. And then we also have Mr. Ratiram, who I believe, Devant Maraj would have signed an affidavit.
He signed the affidavit?
Yes.
and also investigation was carried out by Devant Maraj back then as transport minister.
Yes.
And why Ratiram, who was working in PTSC as the property managers in charge of all PTSC properties, buses and vehicles and all these different things, because Devant Maraj said, also the former minister, they used to use the property vehicles of the PTS, the bus.
Yes.
Right? And he said he launched an investigation, and we have senior people in the UNC who know about the investigation say that how Devant Maraj talking stupidness.
Yeah.
So you see clearly. So why he will leave Cry Canada?
Yes.
Cry Canada and come to Trinidad and give a sworn statement and give a statement to the police, and he's sticking by what he said.
Yes.
And he said that how he was one. Not only Devant Maraj talk about it too, Basan talk about it, and not only Basan too, Ramona, they talk about brutals and what's supposed to be closed down. I remember I interviewed Devant Maraj, I interviewed Basan Barat, and I interviewed also Ramona Ramdial.
Right.
And they all talk about, they say the leader knows about these incidents and all these different things. And what was hurtful to know that you went to speak to the newly appointed American ambassador, Candace Bond, and you went to talk to her about crime and energy, right, and illegal guns. But you went with your chief whip, who charged by the TTPS, on the advice of the Director of Public Prosecution, on $1 million bill for fraud. But you're going to talk about crime in this country. So you show clearly they don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care. When you talk about these things, people say, you don't. Let me tell you something. I am a member of the COP, and I always say country before party.
Yes.
And I will talk out what is wrong. And I always say we have to stand for something. If we stand for something, we will fall for anything. And there are a lot of people who are talking about they have the COP support. How do come they enough mind?
Well, we come into that.
Right? How come they enough mind? Because we have to be honest. If we couldn't tell what's more when we get in government, what we will do? What we will do? Yeah. And you see people tied 7-7. But I never know. Since I go into school, in primary school, and in kindergarten school, when the teachers teaching us, they tell us this is number 7. They never tell us this is capital 7 and command 7. Right? They never. I don't know if it's a new invention. Right? Because we have people telling us, you laughing at serious thing. This is real issue. Right? They hear about. I never hear that in my life. I know about capital A, command A, capital B, command B, and they show you how to make the capital B. And then you come, and you know the lines with the big lines, big line books, right? The textbook, and they show you how to go on top. But now you're hearing about capital 7 and command 7.
That is Kamlamatics. It's Kamlamatics. You have a capital and a command.
Yes.
Numbers.
I don't understand this. Command 7, capital 7. And who are the big 7 and who are the command 7? You ever believe that? And big educated men and women embracing that.
Yes.
Lawyers, right? Doctors, whoever they have in the party, all of them embracing that, command 7 and capital 7. Right? There's a tie, but you win.
Yes.
Huh? You get less votes than in 2019. And when you combine the two you went into, it's still less. It's still less. So,
but we are sending.
Yes, but I don't know.
Problematics like
yes, I don't know. I don't know what really going on in people's minds.
Yeah.
Right? And it showed, and these are the things they want to sell the population. Imagine this, I have friends in the UNC who is chairman and who is lawyers. Want to show me a chart. Huh? But you know, when you explain the chart to them, they go on silent. Huh? They go on silent. When I talk to them, the same person and chairman, you know, and he's a lawyer, you know. When I talk to him about in center, what's going on in Shogunas now, he's silent. He says, no, you have a point. But I have a point. He knows it's right, but he wouldn't go and tell his leader it's wrong. He wouldn't go and talk that in an assembly of the UNC and say, hey, what we're doing is wrong. They wouldn't do it. Right? So clearly, I just know what kind of people are they really are.
Political expediency.
Right? It shows clearly they turn a blind eye. A blind eye. Sometimes I just say that them running a horse race. Because you know when you run a horse race, you run straight. And you have to put the blinkers on. And to keep the horse straight. You can't see nothing like that. So that's what we're seeing in the UNC. That's what we're seeing. And people have to, I don't know what really taking place now.
But we reference a couple of people, Wendell, who currently sit on the opposition bench in the lower house. David Lee, Anna Ram, Rati Ram, and others, right? I think even Mr. Munilal is the subject of some matter with EMBD and all of this different thing. Now, we know that normally when a party wins the election, they form government, the cabinet is normally drawn from the elected officials, right? Are you concerned that if in 2025, the UNC or whatever entity they create, should we have a repeat of 2010, should form government in 2025? Because based on what we're hearing from Gary Griffith and so on, there appears to be, or they're going down the road of coalition again. But we will come to that just now. Are you concerned that you can have a Minister of Energy in the person of David Lee, who's the shadow MP for Energy? You can have a Minister of Public Utilities in the person of Anil Ram, by virtue of the fact that he would have worked for two public utilities companies. And who knows what position they may give Ravi Rati Ram, works and infrastructure, right? That persons with, as you said before, question marks over their heads can be occupying senior positions like that in a cabinet governing the affairs of Trinidad and Tobago. And their names have not been cleared. Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, when she was Prime Minister, would have told certain people, clear your name and come back. Right? She was very specific in who she told that to. Albeit she seems to have forgiven Mr. Owner now, and she's no longer, it is no longer a requirement for him to clear his name. Right? So are you concerned that you could wake up on the morning or a week after the election in 2025 and have such persons of such caliber, and by caliber I don't mean in a good way there, serving as senior ministers?
I'm glad you raised that issue. Remember when the Andrea Barrett was murdered?
Yes.
And before Andrea Barrett, it had other people was murdered. But they run with the Andrea Barrett issue. And they went all over having candlelight vigil and all these different things. And it went even, and that time it was even in a pandemic.
Yes.
Right? And they want the Prime Minister to go. I remember I did a walk from Arima to Port of Spain. Was calling for constitutional reform and constitutional police reform.
Right.
Because I was saying that our justice system is slow in this country. Our justice system is slow. And our justice system, we had to ask the question, if it serves certain individuals. Because you all remember files was taken away from the DDP office and end up in lawyers and senators' office, right, in their personal office. And then after you ask the question, with the Piaco fiasco, look how long that matter is. It had to now restart over. Over 20-something years. You see also the courts in Florida order to pay us $1 billion taxpayers' money. And we see also the same opposition leader who's advising them to appeal. To appeal. It's on record. She said publicly. Right? They will appeal the case. Here it is, people getting back money what people stole from us. Right? Because of racket. And when you hear, that's why I said, you see the commissioners of inquiry reported in Piaco, that should be made public. And let the population know. Right? Because that ministers former ministers who was Minister of Transport, who sitting in the upper house as senators, right, who went and testified before the Commission of Inquiry into the PIACO and talk about the corruption from actually very own members of them.
Yes.
Right? Very own members of them. But that is for the topic to talk another time.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
To talk about another time, because these are the things you have to bring out there and let the population know. So when you talk about if I concern that we'll get up, let me tell you something. What we are seeing right now in the opposition, right? Don't put nothing behind your thoughts or mind where there is concern. But God is a bigger person than all of them. Right? And I clearly, Dominic, I just say PNM is the problem, UNC is not the solution. I said, don't ask me about PNM because I said them is the problem. Right? But UNC is not the solution. And UNC will never, let me tell you something, see the period of 2010 to 2015, that will never come back in Trinidad to the world. And when that period was there, it had people who was part and parcel of that partnership, was people with integrity. I'm not talking about who come from the UNC. Right? And the people who drive the partnership, and I keep saying it, you know who was the Jefe? Winston Dukaran, not Jack Warner. Because if Jack Warner was the Jefe, he'd have made Bazepande win in 2007 when he was vice president of FIFA and president of the CONCACAF, right? And chairman of the UNC. And a big boy in the UNC, right? You remember how much CJ get 16? And UNC and COP beat them in 22 constituency by came in second. 22 constituencies. So there is let me tell you something. UNC, and I say it, I don't care who backs with me, there's not a national party for Trinidad and Tobago. They never, if you follow the UNC from DLP to come right down to this present day UNC, because they changed time from ULF to, right, from this present day. The UNC never contest all seats in Trinidad and Tobago. Once they tried to do it, and that was in 2020 when it was the 17-17-2, and then after when two persons crossed the floor, Vincent Lash and Rupert Griffith crossed the floor, and they win the election by one seat. Right? By one seat. What happened after? They crumbled the next year.
They stick up in. Folks, we go to our first break for this evening, and we continue discussion. When we come back, we have to grill Wendell with respect to the COP, let him get away, and prospects for 2025. So stay locked, we'll be right back. And welcome back. You're tuned into The Real Issues with yours truly, Dominic Romain. If you're just joining us, my co-host this evening, I'm not going to say guest, co-host, because I intend for him to be a regular fixture to this program. So my co-host this evening, as promised, is Wendell Eversley. And of course, we're discussing the politics of the day and other issues. But before we went to the break, we were really getting into the discussion of the COP, and the prospects for 2025. So Wendell, 2025 is fast approaching. And a general election is due in 2025. Of course, it is the Prime Minister's prerogative to call it earlier if he so wishes. But we will see how that would go. We know that the PNM doesn't really fare well when an election is called early. Mr. Manning did it twice, and we saw what the outcome would have been. In fact, I recall, I think it was in 2014 or 2015, when the PNM was calling for early election. Mrs. Pasabi says, I feel like stupid like Manning to call the election early or something to that effect. But before I get ill, I don't want to lose out on this, because we have some time still to get it in, right? But let me just touch on this topic quickly. Last week Monday, Dr. Rowley, when he was questioned by a certain reporter, right, a well-known reporter, who said the NTA got 30,000 votes in Digo Mountain. Dr. Rowley said, where you hear that from? Right? And he asked in Guyanese dollars. And apparently somebody in Trinidad, I imagine, saw it fit to send this clip, not to His Excellency Yovan Ali, the President of Ghana. They sent it to, interestingly, the Vice President, Mr. Bharat Jagdeo, who at a press conference a few days ago sought to address the issue. And, his response to it was less than stellar. I mean, anybody who would have seen that clip, and I'm sure most people would have seen it by now, would agree that Dr. Rowley said that in jest. It wasn't nothing serious, typical training. Yeah. Take we say in US dollars or something like that.
Sometimes when somebody they tell somebody your age and they say, I just want to reference, they say 15 years old. They say, what, 15 US?
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
Right? So they make it because I remember in Germany, right? I just went to buy because they say ein beer, right? Meaning a beer. I went to buy a mug of beer. So I making a joke and I take out $5 TT. They say we do accept that here. It come from. Right? So I had to take it as a joke.
Correct.
Many people make joke about people's currency. Right? Because when I went to South Africa, and I show them, they don't know about our money. Right? And they laugh.
Yeah.
Right? So I could make a big thing, so you're laughing at it.
Correct.
Right? So how we put it across, we say 30,000. You say, wait, what 30,000? You mean Guyanese?
Yeah.
Guyanese dollars.
Because one TT is worth 32 Guyanese.
But when you go to Guyana, right? They say this TT has no value here. Right? They say, we come in here with this TT money, they have no value. So you're making a joke, which is true. It has no value. Just as how Guyanese dollars here have no value. Right? When we go to Barbados, they don't even accept our dollars. Right. They say, Trini, go back with your money now.
No, because there's no demand for our TT dollar.
No.
But if it was a reserve currency like the US, it would be in demand. But when you look at Mr. Jagdeo's response,
I find it was very unprofessional, especially a man who was a former president of Guyana for 10 years, who tried to be president again, and the Caribbean Court of Appeal had to disqualify him. You mustn't forget that. Because he went back to see if he could have been the presidential candidate before from Ali. And the Caribbean Court of Appeal had to disqualify him. And that's why he is now vice president, because the Constitution said there are 2 terms. 2 terms for the president. Right? So it's so clearly, when I saw him make an issue and then talk about our currency and our foreign
and our challenges with respect to US
and coming from
TT
Guyana.
businessmen in Guyana using their foreign currency to purchase products, not just for their businesses in Guyana, but Trinidad as well. But do you think that response from Mr. Jagdeo was really meant for the benefit of to appease whoever it is sent him that? Because he said in the interview, his friend sent to him,
and everybody know who's his friend sent it to him, right? But we want to call them out, but a blind person could know who sent it to him, right? And it showed clearly. And not only that, I don't know if you followed the kind of response now from people, from businessmen and things, and what is the attack now, and they're trying to see how they could damage our international rating and the international agencies that say Trinidad is on a growth of development, and they show how the economy going. So,
contrary to what is said on the other side.
And then not only that, so you see that there are the friends out there now, out of other Caribbean countries, trying to see how they could damage our energy sector, trying to see how they could, because if you listen to some articles were sent to me today, I say, oh gosh.
I read one.
I can't believe this. I can't believe this. So you see clearly what they intend to do, because they will come with all the attacks, they will come with all the underhandness to see how they can degrade. Right? And what they fail to realize, they're only degrading the Prime Minister, they're degrading every citizen of this country, Trinidad and Tobago. And they're trying to destroy, to see how they could, if it will work in their favor, and they will end up in government. And what people have to be concerned of us, if they keep telling a lie, some people will believe a lie is true. Right? And we here have to counteract that immediately. We have to counteract that immediately. And we must get response from all quarters. And what I feel very, very, very distinguished and on truth, where some of those commentators who just want to talk on our economy, right? You didn't hear them up to the day come out and say, hey, what's coming out of Guyana? right, is not true. Right? All those people who they say they want to talk and it on TV6 and C3 and things like that, and bring them on mornings, right? To want to lecture to the population. Some of them also to with fake certificates.
Men and women have letters, according to former President Carmona.
Right, and when they come to us, they want us to listen. They will never adjust situation like that.
Yeah.
They will never.
They wouldn't. But you know what I found interesting is that I've seen a number of posts with this clip with Dr. Rowley making that little gaffe. And when you read the comments, there are certain persons, and we could assume that it's persons anti-PNM, anti-Rowley. That Dr. Rowley is he's so crass and he's an embarrassment to the country and all of this. And I hear what he's saying. And I recall Mrs. Prasad Bisasa, when she was Prime Minister, addressing all CARICOM leaders, made the point, Trinidad and Tobago is not an ATM. Yeah. In other words, Patrick Manning was godfather of the Caribbean. Patrick is now gone, I hear. So you see the free hand Patrick had and helping all here, that those days done. So cut up the ATM card, the ATM closed under me. And her supporters, I don't know if it is that they forget that, or they thought that was something that deserved a round of applause. Yeah. Right? Because compared to what Dr. Rowley said, make a little joke. To me, that was far more serious and embarrassing.
And you remember what Jamaica did?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
They forget. They forget what and the damages where Jamaica also they wanted to pull out all, right? With doing manufacturing work and products and all that people from Trinidad, and they was telling the people and people had to go and try and rebuild and bring back the confidence and the relationship, right? Because when you look at it, and the ATM machine it closed and cut off the card. What country? Who she was talking about? Who she was responding to?
Well, all of the Caribbean countries. In other words, you're telling them you're a bunch of leeches.
Yes, and what the Caribbean countries she was speaking to? What they mostly make up of? What they mostly make up of? And then today now they're talking about Guyanese dollars, right? And they have somebody who that person should be ashamed to even make a visual like that.
Yes.
And so can all of them. I notice the kind of people that respond to it. I could say them really do.
And share it.
Yes, I really say them don't really love this country called Trinidad and Tobago, right? And these are the people that we up against. These are the people when they feel that you're not on their side, right? They're just going to tell you you're hungry. They're going to tell you you're low.
Eating grass.
You're uneducated. You're stupid. But if you're with them. Right? So if they could tell you this, when you're not with them, much more. When you're with them, what they will say about you, what they will say, not you.
Yes.
They will say, not you. Because so you have to call them out. You have to call them. That's why you see certain political parties I will never join. I've been honest here, and I just keep saying it. I will never join them.
And I'm glad you're on that point because I was mentioning before, Mr. Griffith has identified 2025. He still holds fast to the view that he's going to be the next Prime Minister. So I don't know how he and Mrs. Prasad Bisasa are going to work that out. If he will serve for 2.5 years, she will serve for 2.5 years. If she will be the Prime Minister and he will be the Deputy, I don't understand. But obviously, it could only have one Prime Minister, right? But they will sort that out. Probably in Barataria Saria, they could be Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister, but not Trinidad and Tobago. But he is holding fast to the position that, we know. 2025 general election is going to be PNM versus the rest. And the only way that the UNC could beat the PNM on its own, they can't beat, save and except for the year 2000 when they won, right? I think it was 1916 or something, 1916 won. That's the only time they ever beat the PNM by themselves. Other than that, in order for you to beat the PNM, you must form coalition. So we saw it with the NAR in 1986, we saw in 1995, 17, and then Mr. Robinson and Pam Nicholson joined with the UNC. They got the 19 seats, they formed government. And in 2010, when we had the coming together of all of these parties, one of the major parties was, of course, the COP, of which you are still a member. Mr. Griffith is saying that constituency of voters who are neither fish nor fowl with respect to UNC or PNM, they are looking for a home. He is of the view that the COP isn't what it was, and therefore this 147,000 people who he believes would have been the same people who supported the ONR and whatnot and stuff, and who voted for the COP in 2007, that constituency is out there looking for a home, and he believes the NTA can accommodate them. We didn't see that in last week Monday's results. he was hoping to see that groundswell gravitate to the NTA. But of course, the people who voted for the COP understand that the NTA, or would have seen the NTA as a proxy for the UNC. I ain't supporting the UNC. Why I go vote for a party that aligns itself with the UNC? And the UNC has not put up any candidates in these 31 districts, and they are replaced by the NTA. So you can't fool people. So you're taking people for fools. But clearly, it didn't work. Now he's boasting that the NTA got 16,000 votes. But I asked the question, there has been no extrapolation to determine how much of those votes were persons who voted for the NTA, and how many of those were persons who voted for the NTA because the UNC didn't have a candidate. Had the UNC had a candidate in those 31 districts, they would have voted for the UNC. We know the majority belongs to the UNC. Yeah, Mr. Woodruff isn't fooling nobody. But they've made inroads in PNM territory. But the PNM saw a decline of some 30,000 votes for whatever reason. And it's something I'm sure the party will work on. But you said you ain't joining, right?
Nah.
No, you are still COP, right?
Yes, I still
right.
COP.
And you know a lot of people who are still COP.
Yes.
And who want nothing to do with the UNC.
Yes.
Do you think...
A matter of fact, I talked to a person, right, who did a lot, our former Secretary for Field Operation.
Right.
From the San Juan.
Right.
Right? And he told me on no circumstances he's going to support. And when he went to COP, I would talk about the work that he did.
Right.
Right? In terms of after we lost that election of 2007, who stick around and work with the former political leader and former of the party, which is Vincent Dukaran, and build the party to where it reached.
Was Anel Roberts around in 2007?
In 2010, he got a seat.
Okay.
And I could say how we get his seat, but that's for that time. You see, really serious, I will talk about that all that time. And who went and how we managed to get us and who was responsible for him getting the seat. But I didn't want to talk about that tonight, right? As your former leader, you said not tonight. Right? But as you raise that issue, right? In the COP of 2007 that went into 2010,
right,
and realized what took place, and especially with that constitutional reform, which the former leader, Prakash Ramada, was put in charge of. And we had the Constitutional Committee, Constitutional Reform Committee of Mulhodge and Justice Venter. And the recommendation that them brought, and they changed it overnight. And when them see what was going to Parliament, they started to talk out against it.
Right.
Right? And realizes that these is people that we cannot trust.
Yeah. Right?
Besides that, we already see by then they removed Winston Dukaran as Minister of Finance. By then they removed Caroline Sipasad Bechan as Minister of Energy. Right? Because they know who they wanted to put. Yeah. Right? And who they wanted to feel like a control. And realize that they went from early, because the first election of the COP, the first election of to select a political leader, because Winston Dukaran was the interim political leader, because he only found all of that, we was still it. And then he also was given the upper hand to choose an executive to work with him. Right. And he chose, and the executive that he chose was not executive that you see other parties that have today. Right? It was our executive with men with integrity, as I can tell you, like one Mr. Sawan, right? Who we take night and turn it into day, and day into night, sleepless night, going all about forming the circles, going length and breadth. Right. Sure. While we in Trinidad, next time we in Tobago, back in Tobago, in Trinidad. And these are the people. And then the executive he had, the powerful executive, people of integrity, people who you could call upon, and the men and women, right? We had Wendell, we had Caroline Sipasad Bechan, we had
Timothy Hamilton, Vernon Delema.
Yes, and we had this woman, I will come to her name just.
Wendell was you all too? Or?
Yes, Wendell was well. Right. Wendell was the one who bring a lot of portfolio for agriculture, right? Because you know she come from, she have an agricultural background.
Let me ask you this question. How much of the People's Partnership Manifesto was COP and how much was UNC?
Was our manifesto. Our manifesto was laid in Parliament. Children Life Fund was COP.
So right? Children Life Fund was COP.
The laptop.
Right.
It was COP.
Now
we had that in 2007.
Now you recall Mrs. Prasad Bisesa made it seem as if the Children Life Fund was her baby. She said cabinet note number 1 of yes, that was the first thing that they passed. Yeah. Right?
Well, if somebody say how much that was a 5-day weekend.
Yes.
Right, so I standing here, I showing you the manifesto was laid in the parliament.
Right.
They bring in some of those things that they what they say they're going to do, but it didn't bear fruit.
Right.
Right. The Children Life Fund and all them different things. It was COP, and if they want to be honest and genuine with themselves, right? But you're coming back to what the question what you asked, right? The people who saying right now that they have the COP votes. The COP don't want no part of what we're seeing right now. Or let me forget about the COP. Let me say the undecided voters. Right?
Right.
Which a lot of them gravitate was to the COP in 2007 when it formed. Right? When we had the Faizabad, not the Faizabad, in 2010 we had the Freeport Accord. Right? I could tell you about the Freeport Accord.
Which preceded the Faizabad Accord?
Yes, the Freeport Accord is where we was gathering, and then after the Freeport Accord, we give the all clear to form the own part. That time Winston Buchanan left the UNC. Remember when Winston Buchanan left the UNC, when they make him political leader, yes. It was a sham and all this different things.
Leader in name only.
And when Winston Buchanan left the UNC, and he's going to form the COP, then I joined COP.
Right.
Because I was a founding member of COP. I was never the UNC because I said I was not part of that.
Right.
And when I see he leave the UNC, and I say yes, a man of integrity. And I went and joined him. Right? And that's why I was there when 51 meetings in 10 nights. And we went length and breadth throughout the country. So people who come in now and say, because a lot of them who say that the COP support wasn't from there from the interception.
Right.
Right, but I don't want to go there tonight. Right, there wasn't there for the interception. I could give you the history.
Yeah.
And I put it out there. Right, just as how I know 1990 from the inside out. Because every year, and I keep clamoring until our good news for Trinidad and Tobago, good news coming for us where 1990 is concerned.
Right.
And I don't want to talk about that tonight because up to today at an important meeting. Right, and results is going to come.
Excellent.
And that's the hard work what you put out there, yes. And what you stand for, and bearing fruit. But I ain't going to discuss that right now.
Right.
But people who talking about in 2010, when we formed the COP, not 2010, when we formed the partnership,
right,
it's because of Winston Buchanan, who was working with smaller parties to bring them together. And we used to have all the meetings. Used to be in Charlieville. Used to go all length and breadth and meeting other small parties, NGOs, right? All in Arima. We keep meetings in the town hall in Arima. We keep dinner all over,
right.
Fundraiser and all in different things. And we bring everybody together to form the people partnership. But when they come together now, and we had the first election to elect a new executive by people electing individuals, we see where the underhandness and the cut-up start. And we see where people now had an aim, and the cabal was to destroy the COP. And the first person they went at is Winston Buchanan. And that 2 persons put up their name to contest the post for political leader. It was Prakash Ramada and Annie Roberts. And Winston Buchanan said he's not going to contest the position as political leader. And then Vunan Dilema came in, right? Came in and said, I'm not going to let the party fall into these 2 people who they say had a UNC agenda. And it was very we end up seeing it. We end up seeing it because we see that people who when we talk about the new politics never stand up for the new politics. I remember going up El Dorado and fasting with a member of parliament for Arima back then, who was a pastor, and said, I'm going to walk out. And next time they call him in, they give him a cabinet position with a ministry that he don't know what to do to move that ministry forward, and say he's going to rewrite the history of Trinidad and Tobago. Right now we're still waiting on him to rewrite the history of Trinidad and Tobago, right? And nothing can come out of that. But when we had that partnership, and the COP back then, the COP, watch and see the type of people we had in the COP.
Right. Well, let me ask a question. Nicole Dyer Griffith was part of the COP, right?
Yeah, she was part of the COP.
Was Gary Griffith around at that time, or did he show any interest in COP?
Gary was in the COP when he was one of the candidates who I think he contested in St. Anne's East. And then after he left the COP.
Right.
Right. After the election of 2007, he left the COP.
So he was not faithful to the COP. The very same COP that he's quoting today, right? He basically abandoned the party.
He resigned from the party. He left the party. Left the party, right? And he went back with the UNC back then.
Right. So his loyalty to the very same constituency of people that he's now trying to court and telling them come into the arms and to the fold of the NTA, but you abandoned them in 2007.
But I think I don't know how Gary just stayed, but I think Gary had a better chance if he just stay on his own.
He would have.
Yeah, he had a better chance if he just stay on his own, because I will not be part and parcel of Kamala and that bunch they have right now. Never. I will never be a part and parcel of that. And that bunch that she have right now, nobody will take them serious to going to be any part of any coalition with them. None.
Well, there aren't too many options left, and unless new parties come on the scene over the course of the next 2 years, all they have left is MSJ. MSJ Al Abdullah has said that he's not interested in forming any coalition. He's been there, done that. He's not going back there again.
I understand Pep said they're not going in no coalition.
Exactly, especially now with Philip Alexander and Gary battling. So the only other parties there are really would be any new something fly by night that come up and looking to create a pickup side. I know
so why they say I can revive COP?
Are you interested in reviving the COP?
But I know I'm putting up myself for 2025. And you just say
who's the political leader of COP right now?
Who's Good Senate.
Okay. So you all intend to have elections before?
But we still out there as a unit.
Right. But are you advocating for internal elections?
If UNC function, why COP can function?
You could. Right. But there needs to be, as you said, a revival. And who is going to take charge for that revival?
You can never tell what will happen.
Well, okay. So here it is, first, folks. There's going to be a revival of this COP. So very soon, Mr. Wendell, Eversley, and Gary Griffith might end up being enemies.
Who knows? I might be the people.
Well, are you hinting something?
I don't know. I just right. So you can never tell. But and then you see in this country, right? Like today, I was reflecting back. From 56 to now. When some people saying that PNM never did nothing for the country. PNM came into power in the form in 1954-55. 56 they contested election. Right? But the late part of 56, it was PNM. The 60s was PNM. The 70s was PNM. The 80s was PNM. The only time PNM was removed from office, it was in 1986.
Right.
And it was 25 years under Eric Williams, 5 years
under Chambers.
Because Eric Williams still had the record of being the Prime Minister that served 25 consecutive years. Right? Who built this country in all this time? I was in 56, I come in the late 60s. Right? Who built the country all the time? It's not the PNM.
Correct.
Right?
So when you look, people that,
when you look, no, but the other thing, who built the hospitals, the schools, right, the health centers, right, infrastructure, right?
Who created Carney in 1975?
Right.
Who created
and not only Carney, we had a lot of industries too.
Yes.
Right, and after we see some come and close down and all them different things. Right? We had it was SPAT. First it was Escort. The iron and steel company, right? All these industries and things, they create and they build. They build industry. A lot of industry was built in Central. And who built it? Right? Who built it? So when people want to say that PNM never did nothing, first that to be honest, because they did it. Because to have a party in power for 30 consecutive years, 30 consecutive years, from 56 to 1986, and then it changed hand in 1986 and 91, right? 1960 and 1991. We see what happened in between that period.
Yes.
Right? We see what happened in that period and why people who come together, parties that come together and form the NAR. And when we look at the parties that come together and form that, we must remember Carl Hudson Phillip in 1981, where he formed the ONR.
Yeah.
And who he had with him? Look at his executive back then.
Yeah.
And look at the people that he put to be as candidates. Because he had people from all over Trinidad. And he had a movement that spill over to 1986. That bring the NAR together, bring the Tobago, two-seat Tobago with Robinson and all of them, and form the NAR. And after that, you see what happened? Who mashed it up?
The alternative to the PNM is chaos and confusion.
Right.
But stick up in. Folks, we go to a second break for the evening. The discussion is going so interesting and so lively that that half an hour passed quick. All right? So stay locked. We'll be back and we continue the discussion when we come back. So you don't want to miss it. Tell a friend to tell a friend. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thank you for staying locked to The Real Issues with Dominic Romain and my co-host this evening, as promised, Wendell Eversley. So if you're just joining us, unfortunately, you would have missed out on the first hour, so you're going to have to try and pull it back on Facebook to get that first half. So, Wendell, we were talking before we went to break about the things that the PNM would have done 1956 come forward, that 30 unbroken years of PNM leadership. Whenever that issue comes up, I always make the point. The PNM never held a gun to anybody here and tell them vote PNM for 30 years. So clearly the population would have been satisfied with the governance, the development trajectory of Dr. Eric Williams and the PNM for that 30 years. But there's a school of thought that would say that the PNM would have perhaps spoon-fed the population so much in those 30 years that it created a level of dependency on the party, the government. So much so that today, where we have persons who believe that the government is supposed to do certain things. And when we contrast how the PNM operates in government as opposed to that of the UNC. The UNC, we would have, last time we spoke, is more micro, whereas the PNM focuses on macro development. So the UNC will come and put things in your hand, they give you a baby grant, CPEP, a little box stream contract, so money directly in your hands, really and truly, to curry favor, so to speak. But the PNM would focus on sustainability, putting programs in place that is intended to last the test of time and provide opportunities. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't take advantage of these opportunities because they have the view, it's too hard, I'm going to do all of this set of work. You know, give me a grant. And I'm good with that. And that is what the People's Partnership, to an extent, would have promoted. And so today we hear people talking about those things. Auntie Kamala do so much. She gave laptops to the children. And she did things like that. And she had baby grant, and she had the Children's Life Fund, which you have since told us was not the brainchild of the UNC. Contrary to what has been put out there, it was not the brainchild of Mrs. Prasad Bisessa, another act of plagiarism. And I want to thank you for bringing that to the fore. And I'm sure there are some persons listening who support Mrs. Prasad Bisessa. Well, we want to hit you a big stone. But anyway, you look like you know how to duck, right? So, do you concur with that view that perhaps the PNM may have spoiled the population during those 30 years, resulting in a situation today where persons may be a bit too dependent on the state?
You see, one of the things that I see, and I say this is me saying it, right? This is not, as I'm speaking from my party perspective, as speaking as Wendell here. You see, trade schools that this country had under the PNM, that I would say that was a plus. That was a plus for young people.
Yes.
Because a lot of these people, who didn't pass common entrance, they used to write school even.
Right.
And from school even, they used to talk about going into trade schools. And we had trade schools in Port of Spain, we had in Tobago, we had in South, we had youth camps, right, throughout. And a lot of young people, when they leave these schools, even those who couldn't cope with the academic, used to go into learn a trade. Some of the best skilled trade men and things in this country ever see come from these trade schools. Right? I remember John Donaldson Technical Institute. I remember San Fernando Technical Institute. And the rest of school, even the secondary schools, because they had the junior sec, the secondary school, although even in the junior sec, it have trade, they said teach your trade too.
Yes.
Right? Woodwork and all the different. When you go into the secondary school, it had the mechanic, it had the welding, it had all the different things. And some of them, when they come out there, they go to the trade.
Right.
And we used to see all this taking place. And then after, all of a sudden, this come and shift. I know when this shift, when this was moved away, when the same former Prime Minister, who is opposition leader, when she was Minister of Education, right? The same corporal punishment in school, right? So I feel there was a target on certain race to keep them back out of it. So then after what we see today now, if we see Eternal Trade School and youth camp and all these schools down,
right,
who contribute to the problem that we are facing today?
And those were closed between 2010 to 2015.
Right, and who contribute to those problems? It wasn't closed between 20, it was closed before that. When she was Minister of Education. Right? The Chatham and all them different states. People mustn't forget El Dorado girls, youth camp. No much girls used to go there.
Yeah.
Right, then after we had the Chakarama here, it had the hotel school, the school of where you go to cook and all the different things. Yes. And these things, people will understand this, and we had to put it there. That was a plus. That was a plus, and that you used to see parents used to boast and say, my child is a qualified joiner. My child is an A-class mechanic. My child is a diesel mechanic. My daughter is one of the best centrists they could find, fashion designer, and all these things was teaching in these trade schools. And where it is today? Right.
Well, we see Pastor Cummings is now attempting to revive it.
But I do hope, but the problem that I see in today, with all these things what they're going to revive and bring back, I support it.
Right.
I supported it, but what I would like to see is a more educational drive. And we go there, we have to reach out to the youths.
Yes.
And if we don't go there and reach out to them and let them know that this is what we have in place for you, we can only depend on what on the media, because the media is highlighting this.
Correct.
You have to try to how to find a way to go into the communities, and let the young people know that we had this here for you, and this is what opportunities are available for you, and this is what we're going to do. Because for me, I think the fifth estate, which is supposed to be the media, is not promoting the avenues available for young people. Right. So what I'm seeing today in terms of the youth trade centers and all them confronting. Yes, I want it back. But look at a good thing when they're talking about farm horticulture, right?
The homestead program.
Yes, getting young people to get involved in the agriculture, the land available for them. They send them to train them and all the different
200
things.
young people every year.
Yes, and when we're doing all these things, we have to go. And let me tell you something, everybody have to play a part in your village, in your community, in your home. Right? We can't just depend on government to do everything for us. We have to be part, because we the government, you know. We just elect a party to run the affairs for 5 years. Right? Which we say they have to manage the affairs for this country for the 5 years. But we are the government, and we have to make sure that those we put there work for us. And those who we put out, when we say the government, we mean the 41 of them. And those who don't care, because that people sitting in our lower and upper house, they don't care. You hear the language coming from them. You see how they operate. You see how they operate even on the field. They go out and do video I see certain things, what they're seeing today. You ask ourselves, how you expect these people, right, want young people to learn from them? Right. How you expect children to look up at them? How you expect college students to look up at them? We will see a complete, total breakdown. Look, just now I was reading, I think it's Rugby. He said, parents waiting by schools to collect the children, but they park on the pavement. They park on the pavement, that's breaking the law.
Yes. Right?
Park on the pavement, breaking the law. And you say, what children see, what their parents do, they will follow suit. And it's true. If a child see that his mother smoking in front of him, you don't think that child wants a child smoking? Huh? So you don't think that child will say, if a child see his mother drinking in front of him every day, if you feel that a child one day would want to take up something to drink, and he will say, look, mommy drinking, I do.
Right? Yeah, you give up the authority really to discipline your child in that regard.
If a teacher call the parents in the school and say, watch, we catch your son smoking. We catch your son drinking. And you're trying to correct the son, and the parent now will say, why you drinking, why you smoking? And then you start turn and say, but mommy, you drinking home. Yeah. Mommy, you smoking home. Daddy, you smoking home. Yes. You right? In front of us. What you expect them to? So when a child see what his parents do, they eventually do it. And we as parents must know how we must operate when we're in front of our children. Right? And because we see a total lack in communication, lack of breakdown. And what he said is it's true, because when you go to those colleges and after school over, you see plenty parents park on the pavement. Yes. Right? And the pavement is make a walk for you and I to walk in, but the parents breaking the law, parking there. It has some people, even when you're waiting for your own transportation, somebody will come just in front of you and park and go on the pavement, and they're more vexed than you.
Capital law and common law.
Yes. It's more vexed than you want.
Well, Wendell, let me ask you this question. In light of how things turned out with the People's Partnership, where there would have been persons who went into that arrangement with integrity, and their integrity would have been tarnished, do you consider it fortunate that you were not an MP in that arrangement? Well, do you think you dodged a bullet?
Well, I think God protect me. God have a way, because Vincent Dukaran told me why it is he didn't put me as a candidate in 2010 for looking upon the West. Right. And if I did, I would have won it. And,
yes,
said, you would have. Because it was myself get screened, Jerome Chaitan and Roll Raphael. And then
so how Lincoln Douglas ended up in there?
Lincoln Douglas was screened for Dabadi O'Meara in 2007. Right. And Winston Dukaran told me, it's something he told me private and confidential. I don't want to reveal it here. I don't want to reveal it here.
Listen, we're discussing real issues here.
Yeah, but I don't want to reveal what he told me. And that's why he said he have to and give him. Right. And he gave Lincoln Douglas.
Did you feel slighted?
I must feel hurt, but I said the party bigger than the man. Right. And I said party first, because we're fighting for something for country. Right. And I said I will go along. And I went out and I campaigned with it. Right.
So in other words, you should have been the Minister of Arts and Multiculturalism.
I don't know whether that put
you get off.
But I get off. First, before I get off, I was an MP. Right. As a member of parliament. I had to be a member of parliament first. Right. But I know this time around I ain't getting off. I'm going in straight in. Right. Right. But I'm going in straight into the parliament. Right. So I ain't getting off this time around. Right. So when you see that back then, when the question you asked, in 2010, people went with the new politics. But when they get in there, the new politics was in the dustbin. Right. Right? And they embrace a different type of politics.
The $3,000 pension at age 60, that was whose idea?
Winston Dukaran. As a matter of fact, it was universal pension for all. People must remember that he had a plan
Right.
And they remove him. The man was £1 billion.
Right.
Face fact. Right? Because they probably couldn't get him to do things.
Right.
Right? You must ask the question. I will bring it before you go on your holidays. Who was the one responsible for passing the money for live sports? Winston Duncan was the Minister of Finance. And they sent him on a vacation and asked who was the minister signing off on the license. The $400 and something million that we see cause a havoc in this country. That cause a havoc. People lose their lives. People was murdered. I remember Ruth Monroe. Is Ruth Monroe?
Ruth Marchand.
Ruth Marchand. Ruth Marchand had to run from the Ministry of Sports because she was a director in sports. Because remember she hired bodyguard too? And
yes.
Murdered his bodyguard.
Yes, tall man.
Right. And remember other things that took place. And today, people went to the parliament when the investigation into live sport was to end up in the hands of the TTPS and the Director of Public Institutions.
Which I believe it is now.
Right?
Yes.
It ended up into the parliament and certain individuals, right, when they went before the court, what the court said. What the court said, they didn't get a chance to?
Yes.
Right. And because
to
of
respond,
who?
and as a result, the report was
who did it? The Prime Minister. The former Prime Minister.
Who would have known better, being senior counsel and loves to say she's a lawyer. And
just how she said people innocent until proven guilty.
Yes.
Right? But she didn't say that when she tell Jack go and clear his name in 2013.
Right.
And come back. And she said she cannot have an international crook in her government.
Yes.
And in her cabinet.
Right.
Right? And to say he's this international crook with all within 5 continents of the world.
Yes, he doesn't discriminate. He stole from every continent.
Yes. And also he went further and said from the poorest of the poor.
Yes.
Right? Haiti.
Yes.
Give back Haiti their money. And a former Prime Minister also asked where UNC money.
Right.
So people mustn't forget these things.
Right.
And then I can see people come and hugging them up now and say they want to take people out of the precipice. Right? But I see in 2023 they put him in the precipice because he didn't make a dent into local.
Right, so they pulled the Jack's back card and clearly that card.
And I was telling people that it's not no his face.
So they paid them hang Jack.
Yes. but remember he used to go all over playing.
All fours, he loves all fours.
So plenty Jacks get hung.
Yeah. So they don't have that in the arsenal for 2025.
No.
Right? Albedo Gary's political currency is worth, let me not say, let me not go there. Next thing they get vexed with me. It's worth less than the Venezuelan Bolivar. Forgive me, any Venezuelan listeners. My apologies. I said it in jest like the Prime Minister, okay? I didn't say Guyana. So don't get vexed with me.
I think he will stand a better chance.
Yes.
Like being.
You think if he decides now to part ways with the UNC, that he stands a chance?
Well, anything could happen, but it had to be genuine.
And which brings us to the question then, because persons would think that maybe that's just a ploy so that he could get votes, and then, if need be, if the UNC requires, if he win a seat or two and they require that to form government, that he would be inclined to join with them.
Well, you see, I've been honest here. I sure it have people in the UNC will be saying it has splendid force.
Of course.
Yeah, I sure it have people will be saying he bring nothing to the table.
Because I am certain there were those who thought he would have done far better.
They must be, the votes he gets must be their votes.
Of course.
I just said what I think people must just say.
But God Christopher saying that?
Well, because when I look at it, 800-something thousand people didn't go and vote.
Right.
And also people who sitting on the fence also too didn't go out and vote.
Yes.
So they show clearly that let me tell you something. You're talking about 2025. The UNC in this present form, they can't take the country forward. So they are a non-entity.
Have you heard the UNC articulate anything in the last 8 years
Nothing.
that speaks to
Nothing.
good governance for 2020?
Nothing. And if people don't understand, how they speak of good governance and they have a leader only lost? You know? Even when she tied, she win.
Yes.
About capital 7, command 7. Huh? And I make inroads there. And when they make inroads with for 202,000 votes,
yes,
you get in 2019.
Yes.
And
when you didn't have Jack and you didn't have Gary.
I didn't have Gary. And now you get 170 something.
Yes, with Jack and Gary.
Yeah, 170 something. Over 31,000 people in saying, and if you add the 15, you're still
under what you got in 2019.
So how people could say, and people want to talk about popular vote.
Right.
I remember PNM get popular votes also too.
Yeah, the PNM got the popular vote in 2015 general election and 2020 general election.
Right.
After losing the popular vote in 2019.
And when the local government election, they get the popular
vote. In 2019, the UNC got the popular vote.
Yes, and then they get
the PNM came back and got 161,000 more votes.
Right. So it showed clearly.
Yeah.
And the popular vote, what the popular vote say?
Nothing.
The seats win an election.
Correct.
And if you had the seats, you could get how much popular vote you have in a proportional representation.
Yes.
Until when it was time to change it, when you had 29 seats, you never did nothing about it. You bring a bill, a runoff bill to kill all the small parties. Do you think people will be forming a new party today?
Right.
PEP will not be here today.
Right.
NTA will not be here today.
Correct.
COP will not be here today. MSJ will not be here today. Let me face reality. They bring a bill to kill small parties.
Yes.
So obviously they bring a bill to keep you in power by all means, and which is God show us. Let me tell you something. Everybody who tries to do things on the hand has failed. Everybody, you might succeed today, but tomorrow you will surely fail.
Right.
You will surely fail because when you feel that you're doing things wrong, and one day it will come to an end. It must come to an end. That's why I could say anything. Nobody could say I take a bribe, I ain't scheming, I ain't racket. Nobody could say they see Wendell walking the street drunk. I never smoke a cigarette, I don't smoke weed.
Right.
And I keep it that way.
Right.
I keep it that way. Even at times, right, I might be down and out, but I rather stay down and out than do anything wrong. Right? I ain't dealing with nobody who known to the police. I ain't dealing with nobody who associated themselves with criminals.
Right.
I ain't dealing with that. I ain't dealing with no drug lord. I ain't dealing with people who have illegal firearms. I keeping my distance.
Right.
And that is the better thing to do. And what I do, I love the most, is I just pray to my God in my quiet moments. Right. And He will lead you. He will lead you, because I want to see a better Trinidad and Tobago.
Right. But we must also note, Wendell, that the UNC also had the endorsement and support from the OWTU. Yeah. And even with all of that, it was still 7-7, but we, and you got less votes.
I wish I did something, yeah? The union leaders said it.
Yes.
I say to them should be home playing with their great-grandchildren.
Yeah.
Right? They always say the great-grandchildren. Because when you check up all of them age together, it's over 400. And when I watch them, who would listen to James number today?
Yeah. Where is Errol McLeod?
Yeah. Right. Well,
he rode off in the sunset.
Yeah, he enjoying the pension. Right. He enjoying the pension. So he probably see them fellas they have there. It's a waste of time.
Right.
Right. Michael and he said, who does listen to them?
Roger and these guys.
Who does listen to them? Because if there was a force. Probably they'll make UNC win the local government election. They'll give. I thought that again, and they say they are sweeping. It have people saying they're sweeping it.
Of course, it was supposed to be a bloodbath.
Yeah, they're sweeping it. They say you're red and ready, but you're dead and
bloody.
Right.
Yes.
And there's some they say they're sweeping it. Take all the tune of the PNM sweeping time. Yeah. So they're gonna sweep it. And what happened?
I'm still waiting for Douglas Politics to do a live. He do a live this morning talking about Inez Gates and the Prime Minister declaration. Not one word about the election results, and he was one of those who said, yes, Rowley Fred, call the election. But the election was called, you all went to the Privy Council, all you get the election, and certainly the outcome was not, despite the fact all you pretended. But what the UNC needs to be concerned about is the fact that all the issues that all you raise about unemployment and crime and all of poverty and all of these different things, you were not able to attract any additional. In fact, you lose support. So none of the people who you say discontent with all of these things even bat an eyelid in your direction. Right? So 30,000 people fell off from voting for the PNM, and none of them considered the threesome, right? But they supported the OWTU to come on your side and vote for you. Midterm, you all didn't do that. And where it is that you have another 2 years before 2025, where of course the government has a number of projects on which they're going to deliver.
And you remember the OWTU, Mountain Platform in San Fernando, right?
Right.
They send the executive member. While they come from Labour, and they say they're supporting the UNC, tell them to go and support UNC.
Yes.
MSJ said they don't want no part of UNC.
Yeah.
And them distance themselves.
Right.
Right? David Abdullah make it clear. He said, I want no part of them. And people keep talking, a former political leader of NJA said he never see thieving so.
Yes.
You see, like if they're inventing.
They have a right to thief.
Right? Another minister of communication say she have a set of rats around her. Right? And when they say you have a set of rats, you know it's rats?
Yes.
Huh? And when you're hearing these things, and people say, let me pull out, the writing was on the wall from the time she lose them by election in 2013, till that when she called the local government election of 2013, and she get that song defeated too, it was 1886, she started to sing.
Yeah.
Right? We hear the things she's singing. And after that, election after election after election, and even when you lost, you win.
Yes.
And then she bring back somebody who started to talk about command 7, capital 7. I had nothing else to say. 1 minute, there's the local Nelson Mandela. I bring it out. So after an hour, you could tell she now, capital 7 and command 7. So I don't know. This is a person who used to teach upper 6. I used to teach mathematics, and he come in to tell people, capital 7, command 7.
Folks, with that, we go to the break. We will be right back. We continue the discussion. Stay locked. Welcome back, and you're into the final half hour of this evening's program. As they say, how time flies when you're having fun, and certainly we were having a bit of fun in the last half hour before we went to the break. Okay, capital 7 and command 7, new concept under Kablamatics. But before we get back into the discussion, I'm taking a little peep here of the stream online on Facebook, and I'm seeing there's a gentleman by the name of Lucky Lal who is saying Rowley was right. The people of Trinidad and Tobago is stupid. Did he really make that statement? Is a yes or no question. Let me answer that for you, Mr. Lal. And I've addressed that before, and I'll address it again. Dr. Rowley never said the people of Trinidad and Tobago are stupid. What he said was that the opposition UNC thinks that the people of Trinidad and Tobago are stupid. And there was a particular DJ or a particular sound engineer on a particular radio station doctored that clip, right? And cut off the part where Dr. Rowley said the opposition UNC thinks that the people of Trinidad and Tobago are stupid. But we will try to find the entire clip for you and play it so we could put that to rest once and for all. Because we've heard a lot of persons who support the UNC say that Dr. Rowley made that statement and he never did. The second one that you all misrepresent as well is who dare dead. The Prime Minister never said who dare dead. The Prime Minister was speaking at a meeting, and this was during COVID, when the government was proposing making vaccination mandatory for public servants, right? And the OWTU took a position that the government should leave it to the citizens to decide whether or not they want to be vaccinated. So who choose to get vaccinated is their choice. If they die, well, so be it. And who choose not to get vaccinated, leave it to the citizens. And the Prime Minister was seeking to characterize the OWTU's position. And he said, basically what the OWTU is saying to you, who they are dead and who live. Let the citizens decide who want to live and who want to die. But again, when it is that you all take your talking points from the wrong places, right, and it's misrepresented, and you would not take the time to do the research to find out what the facts are, and then you come on social media and you spread the propaganda and you ask the question, once it comes to our attention, we would be more than happy to educate you. So I hope that you got a little lesson this evening. And it's not Kamlamatics. We don't talk capital 7 and common 7 here. Right? Wendell?
Yeah. So when they say red and ready and dead and bloody,
yes.
What is that? What that means? When they say the black man and then say, what I say, when they catch, then they say the blank.
Yes.
What that mean?
Yes. Oreo. They have the Oreo now.
Yes. And when they say how we get our name, what that mean?
Yes.
So you see, nobody, they wouldn't talk about these things. Right? Just as how they take what 30,000 or Guyanese dollars,
yes,
right? And they went and they go on and they bring a vice president who's a former president, right, of Guyana to talk about the issue with wheat dollar and their dollar, and we just try to tire that people want to make a mockery of our citizens.
Correct.
And went nothing of that in that form. But I do hope that nobody replied.
Yeah. What I noted from that was that Mr. Jagdeo refused to refer to Dr. Rowley as Dr. Rowley, and he kept saying Mr. Rowley, Mr. Rowley. It's his entitlement, but this is not the first time that he has taken if you want to call it, a cheap shot at Dr. Rowley's management of the economy. In fact, I think it was sometime last year where he made reference. He was saying that Guyana doesn't want to go down the road of Trinidad and Tobago with respect to Dutch disease and the oil the oil money, and he was saying that our economy, is collapsing. And that when you look at it, there's in terms of high levels of unemployment and the shortage of foreign exchange. And I made the point that what Mr. Jagdeo needs to take into consideration, you have a lot of Trinidad businessmen who, instead of investing their capital in Trinidad, creating employment opportunities here, are coming to his country and creating employment opportunities in his country. So perhaps he should be grateful to the Trinidad and Tobago businessmen who are reducing the unemployment rate in his country at the expense of their own. Right? They are investing precious capital into his country. So a lot of the GDP that his country can now boast of is coming again from Trinidad capital.
Are they creating the employment?
Correct.
They're creating the employment because most of the people who are doing most of the big infrastructure work and is Trinidadian contractors.
Correct.
Right? And they go up.
The paving works, Junior Sammy and Calco and all of these are going over there and doing these things.
They're doing the roads, everything. Because until I was watching 3 days ago, they hear the Minister of Infrastructure there, right, saying that he's stopping one of the Trinidadian contractors because of he not satisfied with the quality of work. Right? Yes. And then the guy said his lawyer started to respond to the minister.
Yes.
And I don't know what took place because I wasn't following much about it more. But then after that, people also, if you listen, commentators in Guyana talking about what's going on in Guyana.
Yes.
Right? In terms of they see the cost of living in Guyana.
Yes.
And how it's ridiculous with teachers, the salaries, and children are suffering. School is opening. And so when they look at it, it have problems also in Guyana in terms of cost of living, in terms of food prices, in terms of food stuff and all them different things. So you're correct because plenty of our contractors going across there, right? And they're doing work to develop Guyana, because remember Guyana have 10 regions.
Yes.
Right? And plenty regions don't have proper roads and all these different things. And we contractors now going across there and they're developing Guyana. Because if you go to Georgetown,
right,
and you will ask the capital of Georgetown with all the oil and things that they find right now, which is, we thank God, because the country could see prosperity, but it still have a lot of work to be done.
Right.
Because right now the people talking about if they get a fair deal with the oil company.
It's evident that they have not.
Yeah, and plain, and they say we started the negotiation, complaining, and they say what really going on.
Yes.
And who making the deal and who benefiting. Until, if you can recall, just recently, it have an English journalist went in there and was doing investigation concerning corruption,
right,
and who was benefiting. And that was out there in the front.
Yeah.
And people's name was being called in. Big contractors, government officials' name was being called in too. And you've seen it, and even involved with Chinese officials.
Right.
And you hear what went on take place also in the same airport in Guyana.
Yeah.
So every country had a problem. So I think they should make a big issue of whoever sent it there, and probably how they put it in, because I show you probably in here the video correctly. And that what you get from certain individuals who want to stain Trinidad and Tobago name internationally. Because remember in the COVID time what they did? Who went to the American embassy to get Trinidad and Tobago people sanctions?
Yeah.
Who wrote letters? Right? Who wrote letters? Who went to the international committee now calling on? Who said they recognize Guaido as the president of Guyana? Not Guyana, Venezuela. And this same person who was Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago went and meet the current president in Guyana, in Venezuela, signed. So you see the hypocrisy in them. Yeah. But them fail to be like, what about if let me tell you something, which I know God ain't going to let this happen. If she become Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, how she think the other Caribbean countries will look at her?
Right. Huh? How is she going to relate with Venezuela?
Venezuela.
Yeah.
Yeah. How she
Your position is on record.
How should we relate with Barbados? How should we relate with Jamaica? How should we want to relate with some other Caribbean countries? And when you're making these kind of remarks, when you call the symposium where they come together to see how they could tackle crime, and they say it's a workshop. Yes. How much money we spend is a waste of time. But we benefit from
Her complaint was that she had to get up 5 o'clock to reach Port of Spain for 9.
Yeah. But other people is telling her she had a 5-day weekend.
Yes.
And she only to come to cabinet. After cabinet, gone back.
Yes.
And what happened? What happened?
Today they hug up.
Yeah. I watched a clip. I was going back to some clips. You remember that state of emergency she called?
Yes.
And who she locked up?
Yeah.
Who she locked up?
Was it yesterday? Was the anniversary of that? Yeah. August 21st, yeah?
9,000 what?
Yes.
Africans she locked up.
Yes.
And see what? The charges will come in after.
Yeah, find the evidence later.
Right.
Yeah.
And then after, you see, she former leader who brought her back, which was Basil Panda. He went to represent some of the people who get locked up. And he was inside of the jail.
Yes.
And you hear what he said in the press conference he kept? And when he said what she did, how he criticized it.
Yes.
Because it showed clearly they didn't know what they was doing. And it showed to make a makeshift jail off a Pinto Road.
Right.
And pack them up there. And then after today, she come in and tell you about offload the Matic.
Yes. Wendell, correct me if I'm wrong, right? The then Minister of National Security, John Sandy, in creating the pretext for this state of emergency, did he not say in Parliament that they had information that something was going to happen that would make the 1990 coup look like a tea party?
Yeah.
Right. Anybody get hold for that? Did they retrieve a gun, a grenade, anything?
As you say that, I remember I was passing that time the Prime Minister's office was out in St. Clair.
Right.
For the anniversary of the coup coming about. Remember the jailbreak right in Frederick Street?
Yes, July 2015.
And what happened? On the eve of the anniversary of the attempted coup.
Yes.
Jailbreak, people try to escape. If other people, they only come out and they say that these people was coming out to do what?
Yeah.
They was coming out on a mission. And it so happened that God allowed it to fall.
Right.
And some of these people who went to do the jailbreak end up dying in the crossfire of gunshot.
I think a police officer also lost his life.
So, and then who was the Minister of National Security then?
That would have been Carl Alfonso.
Yes. Right? Because he replaced Gary Griffith.
Yes.
She replaced Gary Griffith. When Sandy was the Minister of National Security, because he didn't remain long, she moved him after a year. She put Jack, then she removed Jack.
And put Emmanuel George.
Emmanuel George. Then she removed Emmanuel George.
And put Gary.
Yeah, and right. So she became Minister of National. She even removed the Minister in the Ministry of National Security, Subhash Pandey.
Yes.
Because remember, he was the minister.
Yes.
Right? She removed him also too.
Yes.
Right? So all of them have a sting when it comes to the Minister of National Security. And she removed all of them. But then after she even moved Anand Ramlogan as the Attorney General, and she brought in Gavin Nicholas. And everybody know Gavin Nicholas was just the Attorney General by word of mouth. Because they said he wasn't doing the work.
Right.
And he was the one who said Jack had to go. Right? And when they say he signed the papers for Jack to go to America. So it's so clearly what type of people she had.
Yes.
In moving around. Remember Glenn Ramadan Singh? Remember the incident he had in his office?
Yes.
Remember with the girl? So everybody, remember also too the former Minister of Local Government, the one who's the member of parliament, was the member of parliament for Faizabad?
Chandra Sharma. Yes. The incident in the car park.
Yes. So everybody you could see there's a lot of ministers in her government.
Yeah. But I'm glad you mentioned Glenn Ramadan Singh. Because I recall, and this is something I could never understand, and we never heard whether or not there was any police investigation. There was a TV6 report where Mr. Ramadan Singh allegedly went to a bar in Central, drank a little too much, left his phone. Somebody found his cell phone, went through the phone and saw there were text messages allegedly between himself and the so-called bagman, where arrangements were being made for the drop of the bag of money.
Yeah.
And some of these text messages were 2 years old and so on. And when the media contacted him, he said, the phone is mine, but I don't know nothing about no text messages.
Yeah.
Some of these messages were 2 years old.
But
Mrs. Pusabi Sasa never spoke on that issue, but had it been a situation of a Dr. Rowley minister accused of something like that, we wouldn't hear it.
Yeah. But there are plenty of things she know, and she never
Yes.
Because, for instance, you remember when Dominic Kalipasad called her concerning the incident at the room?
Yes.
And the voice?
Yes.
And she cut off her phone? Huh? And then after
she said, could you tell me again?
Yes.
He said, oh, you didn't hear me the first time?
Yes, and everybody, right. So there are a lot of things that she turned a blind eye to.
Yes.
I could remember when we had an emergency meeting and when the live sports thing came out, and Caroline Sipasa Bertrand was demanding that he remove from the cabinet. And she came to a COP executive meeting because I was part of the executive.
Right.
And we support her. And when we went to the cabinet, it was a different story.
Yeah.
I said, one of we own, we want to get the weight out.
Right.
And that's all they wanted to do. And they were sticking on the guns that he must be. So after he come and he resigned and then he resigned
as the MP.
Yes, but they could not have a by-election back then because
they waited until the year had passed.
Yeah. Right? They waited for the year had passed and they just had a caretaker as
Sedeno Metevie.
Yeah.
Patricia Sedeno Metevie.
Yes. And she was there caretaking for the constituency and then she ended up being
she ran for the seat
in
2015.
Yeah.
Yes.
So a lot of things they turn blind eye on, and that's why you see probably why they lost the election too. Because it got from 29 seats, right? So
to 18.
Yeah. It's a bad defeat.
Yes.
It's a bad defeat.
Yeah. Right? But you see, and that's the problem. I think it was Larry Lala or somebody, I stand to be corrected, who said there was no introspection after the loss of 2015 to see what led to this. You know, it was the 1 hour extension, it was email gate, the EBC thief, all of these things, and they gave their supporters a whole variety of excuses to try and appease them for this loss, and then never faced the reality of why you lost. Because the population lost faith since 2013. You lost big in the local election. They pumped so much money into the THA election in 2013 and lost 12-0. The writing, as you said, was on the wall since then. You lost the by-election in Shogunas. You lost the by-election in St. Joseph, right? They put up Ian Allen and all of the resources they pump into St. Joseph to try and prop up Ian Allen, and that couldn't help them.
I say after that, plenty of the jobs remain undone.
Yes.
all the things
by the promise, it fell by the wayside.
Remain undone. And when the laws from the time that election, the 2013 local government election defeat, the first one was Shogunas West by-election.
Yes.
And then St. Joseph. And then we went into the local government election.
Right.
And it was there, that was the end.
Yeah.
And she went in Shogunas and singing.
Yes.
And all she concerned, the green man gone.
Green
man gone.
Yes.
Green man gone. She ain't studying that, hey, you get defeated. But she say, I still the Prime Minister.
Yes.
But you went to sell people a dream in 2013 and say what she going to do.
Yeah.
And she realized it have a central government. So I don't know how she will sell her dream now.
Yes.
I don't know how she will sell her dream now. Is she going to come with some and reinvent something now and say, well, 2025.
Yeah.
But we have to look again to see the lies will come to come in and more things, because they talk about the inheritance tax. And coming with that inheritance tax in a local government. And up to now, I ain't hear from her local government manifesto what they're going to do.
Nothing.
For the borough of Shogunas, for Kuva Talparo Regional Corporation, Dibe Penal, Soparia, which is a borough now, Sandy Gandhi. I in here, none.
Nothing.
She been here that she have a manifesto for the development of local government. That nothing.
But even the guy Fish who Mr. Garcia, who had won the seat for them the by-election in Arima, right? Who came back to the PNM, and he has since, and the seat is now back in the PNM fold. He would have indicated part of the reason why he chose to leave was because he did not have the support of the party. It was something for them to pat themselves on the back for when they got that seat in the by-election, and after that they abandoned the district. He could get no support from the party, and clearly they weren't interested.
And clearly, and for instance, look at Bourneville.
Yes.
With Samuel Sanka, when he said that he had no resources.
And I understand he was a worker.
Yes, he was a worker, and he had no resources. And when he went to the meeting, he was chastised.
Yes.
So are we going to see that they will continue to neglect their electoral districts, everything, and go into now 2025 and say that how the government is doing nothing to develop these areas? So that's what we're going to see.
But Wendell Surud Rambachan just put out a post a couple days ago in which he says he is, as a resident of Shogunas, is not going to allow the mayor and the council to continue the poor service that they had delivered to the burgesses, and he intends to form a citizens action group.
You see?
Suraj Rambachan said that.
Yeah, and then after
it is on his Facebook page.
And then after you see something on his Facebook page to where you warn them, he tell you I have to call his home.
Yes.
Right? And it's his business who
he voted for,
and his family support.
Yes.
And stop using your office. And if it's using your office to canvass for Ms. Bissessa, is wrong. And he said he advised the opposition leader. Right? So we won.
Yes.
So, and if he put out this, I didn't see it yet, but you read there, then it show clearly that what he see in the past 3 years as service,
poor service.
Poor service.
He doesn't intend to let it continue, but he said nothing for the last 3.5 years. In this
but
poor service.
You watch it.
Yes.
You watch and see how they operate it.
Yeah. You wait until after the election to come out now
and say you're coming to bring back these same people.
Correct.
And put back these same people there. So it seems like somebody has secret for somebody.
Yeah.
And they can't do nothing. And I don't know what to say. We do have our opposition. I keep saying it. We do not have our opposition. We lack in our opposition. We have people who say they're members of parliament, and all they're going to do is just only bacchanal. And they will come back with the RGC parliament. We open in September.
Yeah.
You will see bacchanal. You will see walkout. You will see confusion.
Yeah.
Right? You will see the Senate in the lower house.
Yeah.
And when they start it in the lower house, they just finish it in the upper house.
Right.
You will see one man and only confusion. And they're taking our parliament and bringing it a fish market.
Yes.
And when last year a good debate coming from the opposition members. When last year they say they're sitting down to work and make sure that we have bills that will benefit the people of Trinidad and Tobago. When last they do it?
Yeah.
Right? They will go and they will call for Fitzgerald Hines had to go. This one had to go.
Yes.
Call the election now.
Yes.
But that's what we're going back to
Who
here.
should have no confidence.
Yeah, that's what we're going back to here. And when it's time for the budget, and to vote on the budget, they abstain or walk out of parliament.
Correct.
Right? Take up their books.
And then waste time in the standing finance committee to ask 1,010,000 questions. Yes. But I'm glad that they base their local government election platform on general election issues, because the results show that the population rejected all of those issues. So what are you going to come with in 2025? Come back again with load up the matic? We rejected that in 2023. What else you have? You're coming to talk about poverty and unemployment. You came with that in 2023 and we rejected that. Yeah. What else you have? They have nothing to come with.
They reject it.
Correct.
This is underground, they reject it. The inheritance tax, they reject it.
It rejected.
Everything you talk about, they reject it.
Correct.
Right? And the only thing I will say that they embrace is the councillor who under investigation for sugarness.
Yes.
Right now. David Lee, who will go in there and we had to call him honorable this, honorable that. And he before the court on a serious charge of fraud. And they're probably waiting to see if they get it to government and sweep all these charges and see how they could sweep it under the carpet, pile up dust, and wait and say they linger on and put these people. Are we going to see these people offer themselves back up for as being as member of parliament? And we have to accept that and vote for them? And them are matters before the court.
Who else you get?
Matters before the court. So that's why you see, and the population, the population will reject them.
Correct.
The population will reject them.
They already have and they will continue so to do. Folks, it is 9:57. That 2 hours fly, right? So, do you know what that means? Wendell had to come back next week. So, yes, you know. So we have to continue the conversation. Again, my guest for tomorrow is not yet confirmed, so I had to ring down his phone in the morning to see what happens. But join us again tomorrow for yet another installment of The Real Issues with Dominic Romain, and we always try to keep it lively and interesting, and based on the commentary that I'm seeing on Facebook, we're certainly getting that level of engagement as the program continues to grow, and we will expand the topics that we discuss. So we wouldn't only relegate it to politics, but we intend to bring guests who are involved in civil society and so on as we go forward. In addition, I will be going on vacation soon, so you may be seeing more of Wendell's face while I'm away, as well as my good friend Jennifer Patrick. Yes? So enjoy the rest of your night, and we will chat again tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Council, when they go into the House to represent the voices of Tobagonians, will continue every time a press conference is done, every time a press release is done, to bring the issues to the forefront, to hold this administration accountable for the mismanagement that we see taking place in Tobago today of the resources that they have responsibility for. And might I remind you, more resources than previous administrations had access to, because this administration has been given more than any other P&M administration, and they have done absolutely nothing with it. As we go on tonight and in other programs, we are going to continue to expose the mismanagement. So they are getting more and less is taking place in Tobago. I wanna take the opportunity as well, I just want to touch on some of these little issues as before we get into another aspect of the program. And I know when my guests and they join me, that they as well are going to carry some of these discussions. I had the opportunity to see a press release out from the TPP, the legitimate party. I don't know where their standing is. I don't know if they're registered with the EBC or whatever, But what I know is that that party has been launched on 3 occasions. And when I saw the letterhead, all it had on it is interim political leader. They don't even have an executive. I don't know how you can be recognized as an official entity when you do not even have an executive. So there, as far as I'm concerned, they are illegitimate. Nobody voted for them. However, they had the audacity to put out a press release and that many people in Tobago have been waking up because people took, as we say, a ton in the tail and started to hold them accountable. Because here it is, you want to speak out on issues and persons have not yet gotten their ex gratia that has been promised to them. You are speaking out on issues and your administration continues to pay workers late. Agri workers are still in that place of suffering. Some of them 4 or 5 weeks haven't gotten salaries and they're still crying out. We're seeing students abroad still having issues. Students who have applied, there's still no responses coming out of the division. We see major contracts still being given to or spirited away to another economy. And all these are things. I mean, we see 3 out of the 4 emergency roadworks for Carnival last year. 3 out of the 4 still incomplete. Emergency roadworks that were supposed to be completed. Carnival last year. And things throughout the island are just at a standstill. The education system, 15% of our students scoring under 30%. Outstanding monies owed to several service providers coming out of Carnival. And you have the audacity to speak about issues outside of Tobago. Settle down and fix what's taking place here. And that is what we are saying. That is what we are saying. They are not about doing the work. Could be an issue of competence. We don't know. But what we are seeing is continued deflection from what are the real issues, from fixing the real issues in Tobago. And we're going to see some of them tonight. We're going to see some of them because they boasted and they spoke quite a lot on the campaign. But what has materialized? Absolutely nothing. What we've seen is a lot of travel. What we've seen is a lot of spending. A lot of friends and family and so on getting into nice, comfortable positions. But we're going to look into it and we're going to go further into it this evening as the program continues. We're going to take a short break. And when we get back, we're going to have some more discussion. Stay logged on, stay locked on, share the live. Let's get as many people on this evening so that we can present and continue to put forward information that you, the public, can be more informed in your decision-making process. We'll be right back. Yes, folks, and we are back. We are back in the studio. Off to quite a thrilling start. And again, coming back into studio, I have the distinct pleasure of introducing my guests and colleagues and co-hosts and everything wrapped up in one that are with me in studio. I'll start first of all with a gentleman who we probably haven't seen for a little while. I wouldn't even say that he was out for some much needed rest because I don't even think he got any opportunity to rest. And judging from what is ahead of him in the coming week and weeks and so on, I know he will not be getting any rest. Welcome this evening, Minority Leader, Assemblyman Kelvin Morris.
So good evening, Mr. David. Good evening to your listeners, viewers logged on, and to Brother Hislop. Good night, sir.
Good night.
Been a while.
It's indeed been a while that you've been here.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
We've been together in different places.
Careful now, don't
But of course, we were, on the other side of the island.
We have as well, Minority Leader did the honors already, but I guess persons so accustomed with you at the other end of the co-host. So I'm glad that you've officially embraced your role and your function.
Boy, yeah.
So, folks, Senator Lawrence Hislop.
Good evening, Tobago. Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago, Maryland, Kelvin. It is indeed good to be here. It's been a while. And a lot has taken place in the environment, in the island, in the country since we've been here. It's
quite a lot.
It's indeed good to be here. Yeah.
Great. So guys, I was tossing it up a bit earlier. A lot of things getting me upset these days because you go around the island and, as you said, there's so much happening. And when you look for meaningful leadership and treating with issues, it's just absence. You know, I want us to go right into what I think is the most current issue right now on the island, the issue of Caribbean Airlines and so on. We'll start first with the press release that the Tobago Council would have put out, and we're going to treat with that a bit, and then share your views, and let's really talk to the public. I'll ask the director to pull that press release up for me, please. Okay, we have a little technical glitch. That looks like a power surge. So we have it. Senator Hislop, I don't know if you would want to kick us off.
No, well, the Tobago Council, or the People's National Movement, made it very clear in the press release that we were calling on Caribbean Airlines to prioritize. If you notice, and I'll jump all the way down to the last paragraph. It calls on Caribbean Airlines and the pilots to prioritize the well-being of the traveling public, the tourism sector, and the broader economy. And we emphasize the need for a swift resolution that not only addresses the immediate concerns, but also establishes a foundation for future collaboration and understanding. And that last sentence says, we remain steadfast in our commitment to the well-being of the people of Tobago. I happened to be on the airport the following day, and I saw it. I saw the backlog, the passengers just, and I want to compliment the gate agents and the counter staff that I interacted with at A&R Robinson Airport, and their professionalism and the fact that they had to treat with a situation that they didn't create. And whilst I understand the concerns of the pilots, there is also this need for the management of Caribbean Airlines to take seriously, especially what happens on the air bridge. And you see, I say that from the standpoint that persons have to understand that Caribbean Airlines has a tightrope to walk. You know, I hear people calling for all of this and all of these suggestions, and sometimes we don't see a broader picture. A lot of people who are calling for Caribbean Airlines to do this and to do that, and this suggestion and that suggestion never run a parlor, much less to run an airline. And the truth is, when you consider on a monthly basis the numbers that Caribbean Airlines moves within Trinidad and Tobago, it will never be enough for a wide cross-section of the population. But Caribbean Airlines has to seriously look at what it is doing when it comes to the air bridge. It is an essential service, and I don't know if they fully understand the gravity of the situation when it comes to a Tobagonian attempting to travel between the two islands. And it is heart-rending sometimes. But also passengers have to, the traveling public has to temper their expectations in some regard when they get to the airport. Because a lot of the instances where people have to sleep overnight in the airport are people who turn up at the airport without a confirmed booking, right? And I want to also say that CAL has to do something with its reservation system. Because it can't be that I want to book a flight between the islands and I have to book it a year in advance. There has to be something that the airline can do to remedy that situation with their reservation system, that if a person does not travel, that seat becomes available. That space becomes available for somebody who's trying to book a flight. You can't tell me that when I'm trying to book, you can't get a booking for next month.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that. There has to be something that Carl has to do.
So, Lawrence, you know my take on this. We have had the discussion, and I'll be straight up with this as a Tobagonian. For me, I believe I'm not pleased with the service that Carl gives to Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago, and that Airbridge, sorry. I am very concerned, and what would have transpired on Monday, I think, is a culmination of issues, not just internally with in industrial relations, but even with the management of the Airbridge. When you, on almost a daily basis now, there is an overwhelming demand, and there are periods of time where Carl have to actually close off just even the standby purchases. And you can't blame people for going to the airport that have to travel. Because if I have a need, I'm trying to book weeks in advance, cannot get through. And then, but I have to travel, so I would still present myself to the airport, and then I'm there, have to wait just to purchase a standby to then wait to get on a flight. And I think that is untenable. And I think at this point, something needs to be done. Persons need to get to the table and take this issue serious. This is an issue I'm passionate about, and I believe it's an issue that just needs to have persons come seriously to the table and treat it. We can't just be pushing it around. The management of Caribbean Airlines need to understand the role that they play in terms of providing that essential connectivity between the two islands. And so this issue is bigger than simply the one-off action that would have taken place, but it calls for a real conversation between the management of CAL and treating with this airbridge situation, because it affects tourism, it affects people who have to do business, it affects lives, especially livelihood of Tobagonians.
No, but and I agree with Kelvin. The reality is that the day-to-day operation of the airline, especially the airbridge, and I hear the cries for competition on the airbridge. But as I was sharing with someone this afternoon, the business model on the airbridge is, from an airline perspective, is almost unsustainable. But the airline has to look at it from the perspective that this is a bridge between a country. And if this is a bridge in the country, whereas you may have your business model at your international level to make your profit, because I know that the airline has a mandate to become self-sustainable. But whilst you're building out your business model to become self-sustainable, you have to recognize that you play an integral role in the day-to-day operations of a country.
And while we're having this conversation, it is also important for Tobagonians to stop, take, chain up, and take basket. Because we're having this conversation about CAL. CAL also, and that airbridge travel is heavily subsidized by the government of Trinidad and Tobago. And you're hearing people now telling Tobagonians basically that we want to go our own way. We should do our own thing. And doing our own thing perhaps also mean having our own airline. But if you're to have our own airline, who would fund that? Who would manage that? Exactly. Because the real cost, if you look at travel at this time, travel is extremely expensive. I was looking at a flight Los Angeles to San Antonio, I think San Diego. Very close. Probably about a 15-20 minutes flight as well. You know how much TT for that flight? $4,000.
And then to consider,
I'm telling you the same proximity.
And then to consider that they have options.
Exactly.
On that road. That's not just one airline.
So we have to, sometimes, it's easy to get the emotional arguments about, and for people to say, well, we want to go our own way and we want to do our own thing. But the benefits that we accrue, staying united is so much more than any challenges that we may have as a Twin Island state.
Because one of the things that always, when I hear this discussion about it, I always give this recent experience in that I came up from Trinidad on our last flight. The flight was relatively full. There may have been 1 or 2 seats that would have been empty. But what struck me as I got off the plane and I looked in the departure lounge at Crown Point, there was not a passenger in sight. And I asked the supervisor, I said, what's going on? He said, we have nobody to go back on the flight. The only passenger that night to go back to Trinidad was the engineer. The Caribbean Airlines engineer was resident in Tobago. Yeah. And so the question has to now be asked from another perspective as well. Because that flight, somebody has to pay.
Pay for it.
The Prime Minister always says that when we talk about free, when we talk about things free, there's nothing free in the country. So when that flight takes off from Crown Point with a crew, full crew, fuel, and 78 or 79 or 76 empty seats, who pays for that leg of the journey? And those are the things that has to come into the broader conversation. And the minority leader is correct. You can't, it can't be a discussion that is only based on emotion. There has to be a logical conversation balancing the need for individuals to travel between the 2 islands that are part of this country. So there has to be that balance between the need to travel and what makes sense for the airline that we're not wasting money. And before marriage, I just want to jump on something that I heard the Chief Secretary say, that he said that the Sea Bridge as well is referring to the fact that the Sea Bridge is the most inefficient it has ever been, which is
that is a lie. That is a lie.
Because if we didn't have, let's consider this. And I'm not saying that this is the best, that was the best thing. But let's consider if we did not have an efficient sea bridge when this thing transpired on Monday. What would the situation would have been worse? Yeah. And you have 2 fast ferries that were paid for by the central government. Over $1 billion, brand new fast ferry that the Prime Minister championed to create an efficient or to reconnect the sea bridge that we know had issues, challenges with. And to this day, come on, man, since those ferries have come on board, the service has been second to none, both even on time.
So for me, I personally would like to see a serious, perhaps national discussion on this issue, especially when it comes to the air bridge. Because, at the end of the day, as we saw on Monday, it is the traveling public that really feels the brunt of the pain and the suffering. So I think it's an issue that has been going on far too long and requires us to take some serious action, and everybody have to come into it with an open mind, because we as a traveling public, we can't expect, or let me not say can't expect, because we'd always want the best, but at the same time we have to be fair and understand that if we are demanding an efficient air service, then we also must be willing to face what comes with that efficiency. So we must be able to be open-minded that it may in fact require us to put something extra. No, I'm just saying it may.
I hear what you're saying, brother. But the reality is that the reality we face every day is that people want more for nothing, or for less.
Well, that is a reality, but at the same time, it's a conversation. And then we have the conversation, we have it, and we have some recommendations, some decisions, but I think we really need that kind of conversation. And as I really want to commend the workers at the port. And
that's right.
Supervisor there, I think it's Mr. Brown.
Yes.
And his team.
Yeah.
They would have been excellent even during the Commonwealth Games as well. And it just shows that Tobagonians, we have the capacity to manage and manage well.
Yeah.
You know, especially under pressure. So I just want to commend them as well. And I want to now we are seeing the fruits of the investment of Dr. Keith Rowley, the man that so many people want to talk.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to Tobago. Yeah. Because look at that investment. How it has really $1 billion, 2 brand new ferries, and we have now seen the fruits of that kind of investment. So I really want to also commend the foresight of our Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, and his cabinet for approving such an investment that is directly benefiting the people of Tobago as well.
I want us to also look at it from this position. There is no way an airline could have recovered to save the day or to save the 2 days when you have 75 pilots.
Yeah.
75 pilots calling in 3 hours before they are scheduled to take their roster. 75 pilots calling and say, we sink.
And I think that, explain that a bit, because a lot of persons didn't understand what took place. Yeah. All they knew is that flights were cancelled, and then they started hearing voices saying that Trinidad trying to stifle Tobago and the wicked.
That again is the emotional conversation. Because
so, Senator Islam, explain that again to the public. Because that is important. I want everybody to understand that this has nothing to do with victimization.
No. When I saw secretaries making posts about Trinidad. Imagine an industrial action that has far-reaching international consequences.
So let me ask you.
So go ahead.
Caribbean Airlines has even said, or I don't think they officially said it, but there's talk bandying around that the airline lost in the vicinity of about $15 million with this account. So let's put some common sense into it. I am the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. I am the Finance Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. I am Corporation Sole. I pumped millions of dollars into this airline during the COVID period. Now that the airline is flying, and I want them to make money because I want to stop the amount of money I am pumping into the airline, I am going to say, here what we do it. Cancel all flights today because we want to suffer Tobago. How does that make any logical sense? And I want to say it again. No airline in the world, no matter how big the airline is, if 60% of your flight crew, the men and women who sit to the front of the plane, who are responsible for the safety of aircraft and passengers, if 60% of your staff, 60% of your crew, 60-70% of your crew, 3 hours before they to take the take-up duty, they call it sick. I don't care what airline you're running.
Yeah. No airline can sustain that.
To feel the brunt of that. Caribbean Airlines is what is considered a small airline.
And that is...
So, come on.
And that is part of the issue. There's so much dishonesty in the conversations going around Tobago by these people who call themselves TPP. All in the face of creating this discord that only they alone seem to be fighting, because I'm seeing persons saying they're at war, and as one gentleman asked me when I walked his community yesterday, war with who? Who are we at war with?
Well, we're going to go into that discussion heavy tonight.
And I think
I like how you're introducing it here. Because that is a serious thing that Tobago has to be careful of. This is an administration that creates issues to justify or to cover the incompetence. And here it is, we're seeing this war, and what is even worse? The chief secretary is in New York talking about Trinidad is the enemy of Tobago. And
those are utterances of the chief secretary.
People started on the live saying, but this man crazy.
Those were utterances of the
go back to the live when he spoke
on this island.
That Trinidad is the enemy of Tobago. And people are on the live saying, but why is Tobago there being politicized? And this is the foolish narrative.
I don't even think he understands how these things are celebrated because it's not just Tobagonians that would go to Tobago Day. You have Trinidadians, you have Caribbean Island people will go there, and it's a love event. It's not an event to spew hate and discord. It's an event to bring
come together, unity.
Tobagonians, Caribbean people from the diaspora together. And for him to go there and make such a statement, it just
when I asked him,
it's so disappointing.
How could you even? How those words could even come out of him?
No, but it starts from I was able to look, and there's something that really, really disgusted me when I listened and I heard a schoolmate of mine, where we all were brought up to respect our elders and those in society and those in. And I'm hearing this gentleman on a platform saying that he would go to Mason Hall, figuratively or otherwise, metaphorically, go to Mason Hall and dig up the Prime Minister's navel string. And you call him, the bald head man?
Yeah.
Not even referring to him with respect. His navel string and take it down to Whitehall.
And you see,
this is the kind of person that we have. Let it put politics. This is the kind of example that we are lifting up for our children in this place called Tobago. Tobago, a place where morals, spiritual values, good behavior, decency, decent people.
And Kelvin, this is at a time when the country is being headed by a Tobagonian Prime Minister and Tobagonian President.
But I felt so good because we, in 1 week, and while they are fighting war with Trinidad,
the Tobagonians are being elevated.
As the leadership of Trinidad and Tobago, a Prime Minister, an acting President, the Chief Justice, the Panchimbago President, the President of Tuku, all headed and led by Tobago, and even
but we are at war.
But we are war. Even if you go across the length and breadth of the leadership of the defense force, you have Tobagonians at the very top of the leadership. Even across the board of the police service.
But we have
instead of celebrating these things, you trying to stir up this fictitious war.
We have been able over the years.
This is crazy.
We have been able over the years to contribute to this nation's development soberly and very powerfully. When you could consider that an island with only 60,000 population, and we have been able to bring to the fore 2 prime ministers for this country. And you see, there is this message that is being repeated over and over again by the secretaries of this administration. Every time they call Dr. Rowley's name, they say, who calls himself a Tobago.
Yeah.
And so what you're seeking to do is to downplay the man's Tobagonians.
Not even downplay,
hold on, to downplay, strip him, disrespect who he is. Because whether Dr. Rowley was PNM or not, the level of pride I would have had in Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley as a Tobagonian, not even for being Prime Minister, for being, that's right, for being from Mason Hall, where I grew up, where I could walk some of the same streets. I sat in Moriah SDA Church on Saturday gone. And a lot of people don't even know that Dr. Rowley started his primary school schooling at Moriah SDA Primary School. And we want to strip this man of his Tobagonianness.
But it's not just a stripping of his Tobagonianness, but it's also his accomplishments.
Of course.
His legacy.
Because here it is, a man from Mason Hall, Tobago. Humble beginnings.
Born to humble beginnings.
Born to humble beginnings, where he himself admitted even his brothers were probably more brilliant than him academically, but because of constraints at those times, could not afford to go to secondary school. And here it is, he was able, had the opportunity, make use of that opportunity, and is today
has worked his way to become the Prime Minister. But yet you crucifying him.
And they are also building on a narrative of the opposition in Trinidad, because even his accomplishments as someone who would have worked hard, earned his doctorate. Remember how they behaved when he was given that honorary doctorate? Yeah. And even now, you see the persecution that they're trying to persecute him for even being able to afford the purchase of a house. And it's to sort of downplay, as you said, the hard work of this man. And you're seeing it being carried out here in Tobago, and it carried out in Trinidad by their partners.
Yeah.
The proxy, because the I have no bones in saying it. The UNC's proxy in Tobago is the TPP.
Of course.
You know
there
what?
There was a gentleman I've seen on social media, a gentleman who was supporting NTA and also supporting the UNC in the local government, is now heading a page by the TPP. So that tells me clearly the UNC, NT, and the TPP, they are one in the
same vessel.
Same vessel. And if you looked at the leader of the opposition's dress on when they first launched this new arrangement, it was a baby blue, dark blue, and a yellow. Yeah. TPP, NTA, and UNC. So we know UNC is going to participate in 39 seats, and you hear Fali already promising them the two in Tobago
that he will give them.
He's already promising UNC that he is going to deliver to them the two Tobago seats.
And not to forget, we heard Kamala say just before the election, when the back and forth started, she said that she's giving the Prime Minister a message: if you touch one, you touch all.
And I want to say something too, because I'm seeing some comments and people asking what are our solutions.
Yeah.
Our solutions is just as good as the solutions of the party that you all put into place that said they can fix it.
Yeah.
Why aren't they fixing it? And because in my community alone, I can show you roads, drains, unattended, bush growing all over the place. They are fixing absolutely nothing.
Themselves.
And we will be prepared and ready to fix it at the very right time. Yeah. But we ain't here to give them no ideas.
Yeah.
Let them, they said they could fix it, let them fix it.
And you know, I was just reminded of a statement the Secretary for Works and Infrastructure made, where he called the TTPS a foreign military power. During the launch, a foreign military power coming to harass Tobago. And then the Chief Secretary pointed to that and literally said it to Tobagonian police officers.
Threatened them, eh?
Know where you're from. Why?
He said that you are Tobagonian.
You're Tobagonian. Well, basically just to tell them you better be careful. And we can't. Why are we going down this road? Why are we fabricating something? And you know, this administration had such a great opportunity placed in front of them.
Yes.
In that you had a foundation already laid, significant infrastructure work, and you came and you met a human capital on this island that is professional and well schooled. 70%. I think we moved from what I think was 5% or somewhere there in terms of tertiary education to somewhere in the vicinity of about 70%, if I remember correctly. Yeah. And you came and you met that. So you met a well-educated, well-trained workforce with infrastructure works. You have very little or no community centers and schools to build. And you had an opportunity to come in and continue work which is what governance is.
A continuum.
You come in and you come with your but you know what? We knew this was going to happen because you had a party campaigning that had no policies. And when they campaign without a policy, if you have no policies about how you're going to govern, when you win and you're shocked by the fact that you've won without a policy, when you get into governance, you have nothing to govern with.
And you're so correct, Lawrence. And the question is at this point, where is the mandate? What is the mandate? Because they have divorced themselves from what was the vehicle they used to get into office. They remind me of Grand Theft Auto. You know, when you have the vehicle and then you just abandon it and you start to go your own way, doing your own thing. Yeah. And that is what is happening. They have abandoned whatever vehicle they utilize, and now they are like lost sheep, taking us to nowhere. Just today I spoke to a gentleman as I walked, and the gentleman is telling me, and I didn't even follow him at first. He said, Tobago haven't been running, the government haven't been running, and I'm thinking, he said, no, they didn't start to govern yet. No. Because nothing is happening. That was his point. Yeah. He said nothing is happening, so they're really not nothing.
Exactly.
They're not governing.
I wonder.
And the thing before and you know, this thing, what people don't understand is that when you have statements like these being made by our leaders, it doesn't only affect our domestic image. It affects our international. And when you talk about persons, when you're trying to get foreign direct investment to come into an economy, and your economy is as in turmoil, not your economy, but your political system is as in, because the reality is, if a foreign investor has to come to Tobago to invest, he still has to speak with the central government.
Yep.
You have to have collaboration between the Tobago House of Assembly and the central government. So when you're fighting with the central government, when every minute is at this and at that, and the EMA can't approve nothing, how am I, a foreign investor who have a $5 billion US to invest in Tobago, going to want to come when I can't get the approval for whatever I need to do, because the Secretary for Infrastructure says you don't need to go to the EMA. I ain't starting no project which might shut down like the road in Chauvin. I'm not doing it. And we don't understand that those are the kind of repercussions when you have political turmoil in our country.
And I want to again, because I'm looking at the comments as we always do. You see people trying to push this foolish narrative. Some of the propagandists who are normally sent
But
here.
I wouldn't even be distracted by fake profiles.
Yeah, some of them just...
They have their work to do. And
they gain the work that they pay to do and so on. So
I would not...
I just want to keep doing your work.
Let them...
let them do your work.
I hope when the police come, they don't hide their phone, because we had a situation where 2 officers of state had to be taken to the court for disobeying court orders. Yep. So those who continue to misuse state resources, I hope when that time comes, you all can account.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. So I'm just saying we won't waste time behind fake profiles and that kind of thing.
They're just doing the job.
Important. We have to talk to the people of Tobago, and who needs to hear will hear.
Because and that's the point. Because I was going to say that I think what do you starting to get is persons just looking on and recognizing that something ain't right.
Something wrong. Something wrong.
The people who are in the middle ground are just looking on and saying, just as the gentleman who you spoke to this afternoon, the country ain't running, the island ain't running.
Yeah.
And I could tell you from having conversations, whether it's in the construction sector, whether it's simply your regular roadside mechanic. Everybody is seeing that there is a slowdown.
Correct.
And that is a direct result of poor governance. That's what that is. And
even, because I paid attention to the comments of the diaspora when certain speeches were made. Members of the diaspora asking the question, when did our war start?
Yeah,
why is Tobago at a standstill?
It is a dishonest narrative created for, as you said, to hide their incompetence. And it is every time they are found themselves in difficulty.
Yes.
That has been the narrative they have used, trying to create this facade of some kind of Trinidad fighting them down, central government fighting them down. And it's so dangerous, because at the end of the day, because they have failed so badly in attracting international tourists, it is the domestic market that has kept us and kept our property owners afloat.
Yeah.
And when you continue propagating that kind of narrative, you're going to turn Trinidadians off. Because if you're continuously saying to Trinidadians, we don't want you here, we don't like you, we feel they're treating we bad, and if you're that is the narrative.
If I'm a Trinidad, why am I coming
why would I want to? You understand? And so in one breath, you're basically cursing Trinidadians, and in the other breath, you're telling them come.
Somebody
and that has to be some kind of Stockholm syndrome or something.
Somebody asked that very question.
And you know,
why should we come here?
Exactly.
And Sunday evening, I'm glad you brought that up, Kelvin. Sunday evening, I took a drive down to the west. You could not find parking space. Trinidadians all over Crown Point, all the guest houses.
It's domestic tourism.
And you are hearing persons conversing and saying, because people who know people are asking the question, so wait earlier, they don't want Trinidadians up here. So what we have to do, go Grenada, go Barbados, because you're confusing people and you've already destroyed the construction sector. Now we are attacking the hospitality industry in Tobago. How does that make sense for Tobago?
And you see, one of the gentlemen who they lauded when he raised the facts has continued to raise facts. And because he's raising facts that go against them, they're now demonizing it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with an economist. They'll raise facts. And because the man is raising dollars and cents and numbers and percentages, that shows
he's a PNM.
That shows that you have mismanaged Tobago's economy. You want to crucify. Simple things as the conditions of our sporting facilities and our roads. Those are simple things that could tell you that nothing is happening here.
And the idiocracy of it is that you spent over $300 million, spirited away over $300 million on roads, new roads. But you can't drive for a good 100 meters without bouncing upon a pothole. In a normal village, you're passing through and it's pothole. But so you prefer to spend 300 watts. And as I say, I ain't like pothole. This is you drive one.
Now, mind you, this is in front of the Division of Tourism, just outside the gate. Vehicles, and if you notice, vehicles are on one side because nobody wants to park there to damage the
that may be the day that you're not allowed to park.
And this is the road that leads
because the road has
parking. So this is a heavily traversed road.
Heavily traversed.
I want to compliment the workers at the Division of Works who have been doing some work with regards to patching and so on. But we have gotten to the point on the island where the roads go beyond patching.
Yeah.
There are too many of our roads now have gotten to the point, and it could have been as a result of the significant weather that we had last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you need what you have now is a need for resurfacing of roads.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Right? And you got money in your budgetary allocations for that.
And as you're talking about the state of the place, I just want to show this video as well to accompany the video with the picture we just saw. I'll ask the director to cue that short video up, and let's take a look at this. Look at the condition.
It's very painful, you know.
Of Scarborough.
Yeah, well, they campaigned on the fact that there was a shanty town. But at least the boardwalk was being maintained.
Yeah,
it was beautified.
And this is if you cannot take care of your capital.
But we have 300, I go back to the point, but we still have 300 million to put in
somebody else
to build another economy.
So we're not building Tobago, but we're building other places. 300 million.
And
given away. I wouldn't even say straight away. Given away.
They continue to do so.
But time longer than twine.
Yes.
And the day of reckoning is coming when we'll all understand where that 300 million went, who benefited from that 300 million. And when that day of reckoning comes, as one program I was watching last week, where the person said Tobago may not be able to sleep. But the day of reckoning is coming because we keep asking the question, where did that $300 million go? And we'll soon, now rather than later, find out who are some of the people
out of the
that
4
benefited.
roads. 3 out of the 4 emergency roads have not yet been completed.
And you know,
300 million spent.
300 million spent.
You know, for me, what I smile at ever so often. That is not a smile of joy, but it's one where if the PNM was in office and this was happening, the noise that would have been coming from the persons in the administration.
Yeah.
If all of these things, and we're not, ladies and gentlemen, we're not making up these things. You know, these are things that people can see.
Just look around.
You're creating a war where there's no war. You're fighting unnecessarily when you should be governing
and collaborating.
Collaborating with the central government and building Tobago. And there's nothing wrong with a Tobago-ness, you know.
Nothing.
Because and you see this nonsense that people talking about if you're not part of if you're not in support of this administration,
well,
you're against
Tobago. So if you're not TPP,
you're against Tobago.
Nonsense.
I want. This is what I want. I want them to try and dig up my neighbor's string.
Well, right now.
Why is they going and dig up Dr. Olio? Dig up mine.
People in it. So
who they reporting?
But the thing is,
dig up mine. When you're going Mr. dig up Dr. Dig up mine too.
And the narrative is so dotish because the same people that claiming to love Tobago so much are the same people who take $300 million of Tobago money and they didn't give Tobagonians in it. They went down south and they shared the money down south, down in Trinidad.
Yeah.
So you're saying one bit, you love Tobago so much, you're cussing Trinidadians. But you go down south and give away money. Give 300 million, and we must believe that you at war with Trinidad. We must believe that things so bad.
You see, they are the war with everybody. Everybody belong to them. That's the thing.
And that is another real truth because I'm seeing something that where a secretary is dismissing a worker. This is the first time I've seen where a secretary was so brave to actually put pen to paper. They say this person here basically is fired after they finish this contract.
Yep.
I've never seen that in my
Most
lifetime.
of the Tobagonians that have been sent home under this administration.
So you're right.
I'm glad you raised that.
You're at war.
Yes,
You know who they're at war with? They're at war
with Tobago. I'm glad you raised that because we are going to do a program where we are going to highlight for the first time for all of Tobago to see from beginning to date the number of persons that were dismissed and terminated and victimized and continue to be victimized by this administration who say they love Tobago. But we're going to identify that what is the common thread in all these people? You're being branded a PNM. And we saw it up to recently where persons are being sent home. People who qualified, we had a man with a PhD.
I see in one division,
sent home.
In one division, they create a situation to disband a program just to get rid of one person. And you know what's so sad about that situation? That the story of that young man is a story that all of Tobago should be proud of. Inspirational story.
But no, because he's a PNM. He's perceived the PNM.
See, didn't get an opportunity and would have gone back, qualified himself, moved from bachelor's to master's to a PhD. And that son of Tobago, because he happens to be a PNM.
Bossy truth.
You boss his truth. It's not because he wasn't doing his work or can't do his work. But just bossy because he's a PNM, you're bossy truth.
We're going to highlight
the other fella who the secretary fired by the stroke of a pen. Qualified. Appraisal good. Yet you're bossy truth. But I know the day of reckoning is coming, and Tobagonians, you will have your chance.
But you
will have your chance.
But you are at war.
To bust their truth.
And you know what is funny? and we're going to be highlighting, because folks, look out for a new segment on the program called Community Corner. Because we're going to be highlighting issues that people in various districts are fed up of. That very program that young man was fired from, now getting contract to do drainage, you know. And destroying a man in Bacalet house where they cut a drain and didn't have any plans for it. And now the man whole house is at risk of collapsing, the wall and everything. And every day they come in to fix it.
So we want to invite you, Tobagonians, for this Community Corner District Matters. Our show is every Tuesday, so we have from now till next week, Monday. To send in your issues, and we will highlight it on District Matters on the Community Corner, so that all of Tobago will see the woes that people have to undergo under this incompetent,
people fed up,
disgusting administration.
People fed up.
You know what? As you showed the boardwalk. So the administration has this grand plan to redesign Scarborough, and fair enough. After consultation, the plan looks good, right? But whilst you're trying to push forward that plan, you're allowing what you have to just run down. So that's like a man living in a 2-bedroom house. He has this plan to build a mansion. He has no money to build a mansion. All he has is a nice drawing. He has a dream.
A dream.
Right?
It's
a dream of building a mansion. He has no money to build a mansion. Living in a 2-bedroom house. But here what he doing? He living in a 2-bedroom house to run down. While he's still dreaming about building a mansion. You don't think it's smart? Eventually you would have nowhere to live. Because you're going to have a dream for the mansion. And you're going to have a rundown 2-bedroom that you can't even live in. And that's what we're facing in Scarborough now. That's what we're facing in Scarborough.
Look at that. Look at the image.
But you know, and there's this talk about, sometimes you listen to this honesty about 21 years and 21 years. So that boardwalk got there. If nothing was done in 21 years, I don't remember that being there before when Mr. Charles was there.
No, he wasn't there.
In fact, just on the cusp of the last election,
that when them taximen used to pack up.
there was a
Yeah.
When my father was working taxi, my father used to pack up. Then taximen used to pack up.
There was approved funds to do an upgrade of the Esplanade.
Yeah.
Where the designs were approved and everything was approved.
Funding was
available and ready. And what did they do? They come in.
No, you're planning to build a mansion.
Yeah.
You have no money to build a mansion. But and that's the joke, and here's the joke, you have the money to renovate it 2-bedroom.
Yeah.
But you ain't using the money to renovate it 2-bedroom.
Yeah, want to build a mansion.
You want to build a mansion. And you don't have money to build the mansion.
Exactly.
And that is, in a real layman term, what is going on here in Tobago. And it is unfortunate because while they're dreaming of their mansion, there are people who catching the royal.
People suffering.
Look,
So
back to school. Back to school is something that normally in the normal running. Families who I need would simply approach the division. The division would do their internal assessment. Orders will be prepared. I am being told that this situation, you're getting all kind of ring wrong. Just yesterday, a woman telling me they want to know everything about you, from your bank account, your this, your that, everything. Your whole life story.
Applying for a pension?
Yeah, applying your whole life story. Just to give families some relief, maybe some uniform, the basics. But this is a program that they came and met, and the program was very simple, running for years, people getting their successful, people getting their assistance. Why do you run around?
No, they have to find out who you are.
Well,
they're trying to find out who you're supporting, who you're supporting.
Yeah.
And that is what determines how you get help. That is what determines not how the parent gets help, gets help, how the child gets help.
So imagine.
So who your parent vote for, determines what kind of help you get as a child.
I want to give a short story before we go to this break. I spoke to an elderly lady.
Look, somebody saying single mothers crying out for help.
Yeah. 2 days ago from Mount St. George. And she said her son worked hard to support the now sitting assemblyman for that district. Previously, he would always come out and support, but he believed in what she said. After he worked, they went around with a list and identified his family as E&M.
So nothing free. Look, yesterday again.
Nothing.
And this one hurt me because I remember, and I said it, and I will continue to say, during the pandemic, and when there was the issue about the food cards and how the food cards were distributed, and I said, once Tobagonians were able to get food, and those cards were used to purchase food, there should be no apologies for helping people, putting food on the table when at a time when we know it was a pandemic and even people who were doing well ended up in that threshold of vulnerable. And to this day, I'm seeing persons who are in need right now, need help, and they are going to the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection. And they cannot get help. And you know the point the guy was making. He said they're asking you for giving you one long interview, and we need help now. We're hungry now.
Telling you when
there was even at one point the division, because the PNM cared so much. What we did is allow the social workers to have a sort of buffer of vouchers, so that when people come and you have that immediate need, once you make the assessment and they qualify, they can at least go home with a voucher to be able to buy food. The basic human necessity.
Food.
It's food. And if you are unable as an administration to provide food for those who need food, you have failed.
That's right.
Failed.
That's right.
Yep. Folks, let's take a very short break. And when we come back, we'll have 7 minutes. We want to close off this discussion, wind it down, and then we're going to tell you about something exciting that is going to be happening within the next week in the Minority Leaders District. So stay locked on, and we'll be back shortly.
Tobago.
So, folks, we are back, and we've been discussing quite a bit of things. I want to reiterate something that the minority leader said earlier on in terms of CAL. You really want to have a serious discussion because persons are still trying to change that. And I know you made it quite clear that what you believe needs to happen is a serious discussion between CAL, the THA, central government, and put Tobago as a priority on the table.
There has to be a
So, folks, let's not let anybody change that. That is what the minority leader said.
And that is the position.
That is the position that the minority leader holds, and we all hold the same position, regardless of which clung on the line say otherwise. But clungs. We heading into a week where I know the minority leader always has high expectations of this event that is coming up. You want us to show the video first?
Yes, sir.
I want to have that video, Mr. Director. Just grab that video for me, please, with the minority leader.
All about we actually work. We are on the ground.
Exactly.
That is where we
So let's get that video, please.
So home is really, really, very hottest. Just come from my Miss Norman plum tree, like back in the olden days. A nice plum. But this is really our community meet and greet initiative. And today I'm going wrong in Wim. I'll be inviting people to our sports and family day. So come with me, let's have some fun.
Real glory, nothing to see a man, we do it so quick. Go round the G already know them want to be round me. About no pressure start the whip and them speed up. It's hard for them keep up. Me I go hard and my song them a creep up. For real a reality, my dream turn young, go get a heavy, get a youth hero. No one more me I start from zero. Now my bank account zero. I'm not telling nothing never come free, bro. You know, so from me idea I'm a nick up. Yeah. One good, no one's a fear run down. Focus on me, no slope on the front side. Now go ever see soldier give up. I for hope that me up and down, hope that me down. Used to pour no way, me see who pour on the ground. Never wait for nobody for sure, just she out. So keep your comment forward, me post a picture. Plus me in my part, me can't soap up. You know them I likes it. We are on the road and we young. Nothing never regular when me portal enough. Choppy never tell a lie and I totally suck. From the phone I live up, we are program it up. Tell a stream for the cheek, up up and it's young, yeah, lead by a mile is some.
Yeah, man, that
what are we talking about?
Watch me. This is the problem they have with us. When we say great is the PNF. Because in office, out of office, performance all the way.
See, I get my plum right.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, your plum.
We must talk and check it about that. Solo seed.
So, Kelvin, I want you to tell the public what it is you're having.
So, of course, what you just witnessed there was a community drive meet and greet. And the main focus of that initiative was to go house to house to personally invite members of the District of Darrell Spring Wim to our second annual Sports and Family Day. So I felt it important that we had that personal connection. And they mustn't just hear it word of mouth from anyone, but to really take to my residents my personal invitation to them. So I'm looking up to seeing each and every one of them there and for us to have a grand fun time on Sunday, 27th, starting at 10 a.m., concluding around 6 p.m. at Sangster's Hill Jubilee Park. Another facility that we are proud of, a facility I know former Assemblyman Groom Duke would have toiled and ensured was made available for the people of Sangster's Hill, Scarborough and environ. So when they say PNM didn't do anything and you go to places, facilities that now exist, that didn't exist before, you wonder what they're really talking about. In my district alone, we have over 4 facilities, play fields. We have Brandon, we have Mount Grace, we have Jubilee, We have up to the back
all
of
active and functional.
Yeah, and those are places that the PNM will, because we understand the importance of recreation towards building a holistic being. So I look forward to this initiative. We also have our back to school initiative on Friday as well, where we'll be providing support, the support that some of the families couldn't get from the division. We'll be filling some of that and trying to assist as many as we can based on the recommendations of the village councils and different NGOs operating within the district. Would have supplied name to us, and we are going to also treat with that as well.
So that says that people are still willing to work with you.
Well, of
and
course.
To support and to assist.
Well, once people see you're there with the people, helping the people, they also will want to be a part of that. And that is the thing about PNM. I keep telling people, whether we in government, out of government, we understand the importance of working, serving people, because serving people is what I remember Mrs. Gumjuk always used to say. Serve the people, serve the people, serve the people. That is a fundamental of being a representative. You know, some people may see the office, some of them so busy with the office that they let their constituents can't even get it. So office overtakes service. But we continue to be very focused because at the end of the day, you're a representative first before you are anything else.
Very, very well said. So folks, come out the 27th, please. Make it a family day. Come out and support, come out and participate, and let's all have a wonderful time. The last one was exceptional. So, without further ado, we thank you for staying with us tonight, for making our conversations meaningful, for adding value to it. And for those detractors, keep coming, keep looking. Eventually, you'll get convinced. The important thing is that you come to this program and you always hear the facts. Folks, we are out of time, definitely not out of words, but we look forward to seeing you next Tuesday, same place, same time. Have a wonderful evening.